Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to another rocking, awesome Saturday night here at the Six Screens. Boy, we're glad you're with us. We have a lot of people tuning in tonight, and what a beautiful day it's been up here, nice and cool and crisp. And I hope it's nice where you are as well. Stay with us. We've got a lot to talk about here on JW World News. Well, hello everyone. Welcome in. My name's Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world. We do have some people saying sound is not good. Is it really, really bad? I mean, terrible? What's up with the sound? Is it better now? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Better. Okay, so let's go with that. Sometimes it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I can't really hear myself. But okay, they're saying it's better now, everyone. But anyways, welcome in. My name is Rick Farron, and we do this every Saturday night. We've been doing it now for 17 years. We've never missed a Saturday night, and we're here because you're here. This is very important. A lot of people getting out of the Watchtower organization. It's nice to be able to talk to people in real time. And, we've been doing YouTube videos now for 12 years or so. We were one of the first to do them. And when I started doing YouTube videos, there was probably only 5 or 6 other people doing them. Now there's hundreds of ex-witnesses, and they're all doing a great job. I mean, all of them do a wonderful job exposing the Watchtower. But what I'm finding is when I started doing those YouTube videos 12 years ago or so, it was nice people could comment. But boy, when people can comment and talk in real time, that's what a lot of the witnesses needed as they were exiting the Watchtower. They needed to talk to people in real time because sometimes, when YouTube comments, people can't get back to you, and sometimes you're waiting for a while. But we have a platform here that's kind of unique and kind of nice, really, that people can call in, they can get their questions answered, they can listen to live people in real time talking about the evils of the Watchtower. And that's what we do here every Saturday night. And it's been good. It really has been. We're getting a lot of new people coming in, a lot of new ones that are leaving the organization, and they're trying to connect with, what are the apostates saying? What's going on? Why are we losing so many people in the Watchtower? What's happening? So they tune into these YouTubes and into the Six Screens here, and they're trying to find out why are so many people leaving the Watchtower? Well, there's a number of reasons, friends, and I'm sure you're probably, some listening in are probably newly out too. Where we had a number of new people calling in on the program that we had right before this one, and we'll get some new ones tonight as well. I can just tell. I got a feeling we're going to get a lot of new ones calling in, and we never know who's going to call in next here on the Six Screens. But if you guys can muster up the courage, I'm going to put up here the telephone number. So if you guys can muster up the courage tonight and you want to call into the program, I'll put the number up right here so you guys will be able to see it. And we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to call in for the first time, that would be wonderful. So to call into there you go. So call into the program. There's a number, 727-731-6701. There's no PIN. All you have to do is dial that number if you want to dial in tonight. And, as we do the news, what I do is I report the stories that are going on behind the curtains. And then what happens is you guys can come in and you can comment on what's been happening. So let's see if we can't start our program here tonight. There's a number of stories, and we'll get into some of the biggest stories, but some of these side stories I wanted to bring up because what I do is all week long, I look over everything. I mean, everything there is to see about the Watchtower. I look at internet sites, Google alerts. I look on Reddit. I look on JWN discussion board. I look at YouTube videos. I look at Facebook posts. I try to gather as much as I possibly can. Plus, also, we are like a clearinghouse for news. We're like our own United Press International. our Associated Press here at the Six Screens. People send me stuff all week long. And I thank you folks, all you folks that are sending me information. Thank you very much for sending the news here. And it helps me a lot. And don't ever give up doing that. Just text it to me. And you can also write me on Facebook Messenger, send me the news, email me at jwworldnews@gmail.com. And boy, I tell you what, it really helps me when I go to do the news. But something that came up this week and something that's been coming up a lot lately, not only just in the Watchtower, but this Chat GPT, man, you've probably been getting an earful of that, right? That's all you've been hearing about lately. But, I'm really wondering what the Watchtower's position is going to be on artificial intelligence, GPT. I'm not sure how they're gonna work with this, because many people are finding out the real truth about the Watchtower by asking GPT what the issues are with the Watchtower. So I'm gonna just show a little picture here. And then we can talk a little bit about Chat GPT and some of the things some of the ex-witnesses and even Jehovah's Witnesses are actually asking the Watchtower. And that's going on as we speak. Many ex-witnesses, as well as witnesses that are doubting PIMQs, they're looking and asking Chat GPT questions about the Watchtower. Now, one that came up, and a person wrote in this week, to Chat GPT, and they wanted to know, when was actually Jerusalem destroyed? Hold on one second here. What was the destruction? Here's the question that they asked Chat GPT. What is it the Jehovah's Witness teaching about the destruction of Jerusalem in 607, and it's contradicted by historians and archaeologists? So as we all know, the Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower, since their existence really, has promulgated the Watchtower teaching the destruction of Jerusalem took place in 607 BCE. That has been a major controversy for many years. And 607 BCE, from what many people leaving the Watchtower have found out, is not the correct year. The correct year is really 586, 587 BCE. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they insist that 607 BCE is when Jerusalem was destroyed. So Chat GPT went to work, and just kind of paraphrasing what Chat GPT came up with, it says that Jehovah's Witnesses believe that this event marked the end of the Babylonian exile and the fulfillment of biblical prophecies. This teaching is primarily based on the interpretation of biblical text, especially the book of Daniel. All right, so it's going into some historical evidence. It's looking at everything there is in the cloud of information, and it's coming back and telling the audience, or whoever punched that into Chat GPT, that Watchtower has it wrong. And they're even saying here that Watchtower claims to be the sole channel of communication on earth and is responsible for interpreting the Bible accurately. That's what the Watchtower says. However, Chat GPT says the view of Jehovah's Witnesses regarding the destruction of Jerusalem in 607 BCE is contradicted by the majority of historians, archaeologists, and scholars who study ancient Near Eastern history. So there you have it. So Chat GPT looks at all the evidence from archaeologists and scholars, and they're saying Watchtower has it wrong. Now, friends, this can be very detrimental to the Watchtower. This can create all kinds of problems for them. And not only that, I mean, Chat GPT is very thorough. It's even more thorough than you doing a search in Google yourself and trying to look everything up and take notes. Chat GPT did it for you. And what they're finding through archaeological findings, including inscriptions, seals, and clay tablets, as well as astronomical data such as Babylonian cuneiform tablets containing astronomical observations, all point to the year 586, 587 BCE. So there you have it. It's all inclusive. The Watchtower has it wrong, and they never want to admit their errors. They never do, and they'll continue to push this 607 BCE until they go out of business. But do you remember back in the 1990s? Excuse me, when the internet first made its debut, that was around 1992. The Watchtower, as they started seeing the internet was answering a lot of people's questions about the Watchtower, well, the Watchtower vehemently derided or tried to get people not to look in the internet or on the internet. They highly frowned upon them using the internet. You can remember that, and in what they said many things against the internet. In fact, some people. Do you remember when the Watchtower used to say the so-called information highway? Because the internet really is the information highway. But the witnesses would come back and say, well, it's the so-called information highway. So, and then they also talked about the World Wide Web back then. I can remember this as a witness. They said that the World Wide Web, of course, that's of Satan, and they use it to catch unsuspecting Jehovah's Witnesses like a spider does. Do you remember the witnesses saying that? Oh, yeah. So, now we have artificial intelligence. We have the Watchtower looking at it closely, I'm sure. They're going to have something to say about it. And I'm sure it's not going to be that great what they say about it. But, the Watchtower may even be using it themselves. It's great for writing a talk. If you have a talk that has to be written, an outline that a circuit overseer is going to give, well, you want to find out historical facts. You want to find out what goes on in certain parts of the world. Well, Watchtower can use it so easily that can help them. But they're not going to want you in any way typing into Chat GPT with any questions, because it's going to come forth the Watchtower is wrong. So as far as this goes, in fact, there's also something else I wanted to bring up about 607 being the wrong date. If you guys remember years ago, what got many people out of the organization was a book that Olaf, I forget his name now, I'm sorry, but he's a Swedish man, and he wrote a book all about Watchtower having the wrong date. And he just died. He just died. In fact, in the last week, from what I understand, I forget what his last name was. I should have had it written down, but he just died. But a lot of people, I'll tell you what, even though it might not mean too much to you historically wise, this got a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, believe it or not, out of the organization about 20 years or so ago when this information came out. Friends, I have to tell you, and I say it here all the time, the internet is the great equalizer. And what it's doing here is it's exposing people. It's exposing people to things that they now have availability to see that they never could see before. And I'm sure the internet has brought many of you folks out of the organization, just like it's helped me to leave the Watchtower organization. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the gentleman's name was Carl Olaf Johnson.
Okay, that's what it was, Carl Olaf Johnson. Yeah.
And the book was The Gentile Times Revisited.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, it just crossed my mind. I didn't have it written down. It just crossed my mind as I was going over this. Did that help you at all? Did you enjoy what you read about that?
To be honest, that was the very first thing that I read, and that within about 15 minutes, I realized, because if 1914 is wrong, which it most certainly is because it's based on 607, then that means that everything was wrong. And then from there, that led me to Oh my God, Ray France, and that was it. So in about 15 minutes.
Well, there you go.
Woke up in 15 minutes.
It didn't take you long, did it?
No, sir.
Yeah.
And this is Stefan, by the way.
Oh, Stefan, yeah. Well, good to hear from you, Stefan. Always good to hear from you. Thank you.
You as well.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going back to now.
Okay, good. Well, I was even thinking what Stefan was just saying there. If they would even go along with the real date of 586, 587, that would even help them a little bit because it would have given 20 more years. They were kind of, when they came up with 1914, they were really calculating from 607. I mean, it's a formula they were using. And so they came up with 1914 because of 607. But if they would go with the 586, 587, that would have gave them another 20 years or so. So they could have moved the date up from 1914 to 1934. So they missed the boat on that one. Go ahead. I believe we have a 614 calling in. Go ahead.
Hey, Rick. Yeah, this is Michael. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Good.
Yeah, that if you recall, you had me come on for a show, and I told my testimony. I was the person who talked to Fred France personally about the 607 date back in 1973, and I studied Jewish history, as I mentioned on that show. And when I had a chance to question Fred France personally, he never gave me any scripture or any saying. He just said we had 8.5 million people. I'll never forget it as long as I live. So we have 8.5 million people. We have to move at one time, and just smiled and walked away. And that was the time where I started to think. And that took me about 6 more years to get out of the organization. But I realized at that time that they were barking up the wrong tree. Just like the brother said before, 607 wasn't right. 1914 is not right. 1975 is not right.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Mike, for sharing that with us. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Chewy.
There is, for anybody that's like a PMO, maybe working with somebody or something, or maybe somebody in your family, there is a good, that's waking up, there is a really good video, and I think it's the best one out there, and it's by Christy Ann, and it's called Watchtower. Jehovah's Witnesses is going to hate me for showing this, or Watchtower is going to hate me for showing this. And she turns her camera around, and she takes you right to the jw.org website, and she debunks that piece by piece. She takes each being, and she takes each date and everything, how they go through it, and she comes up with 586 right there on their website. So, I mean, if anybody's working with anybody or anything, that's a really good one. That's a really good one.
Well, Christy Ann does a wonderful job. She's a wonderful YouTube videographer. I mean, she does beautiful, beautiful videos. And if she's listening in here tonight, I have seen her from time to time. Good work, Christy. Good work. Well, thank you, Chewy. Yeah. Yes.
If I just might add to Chewy's comment.
Sure.
She takes the own Watchtower publications and books and information from the Watchtower itself and proves that it's 586, 587.
Well, there you go. See, so, it can be proven upside down and backwards, every which way you can look at it. And even the information by, as we said earlier, archaeologists, people who have examined all of this, not some, guy and claims to be an expert in the towers of Watchtower. We're talking about scholars and archaeologists that have proven this, but the Watchtower will not bend. Unbelievable. Did you think they could?
I have an elder friend. He's high up elder, and I talk to him all the time. And I showed him all the information I had, because we can talk without getting at each other's throats. And his comment was stunning to me. He said, Michael, I'm not worried about 507. I'm not worried about 6. I'm not worried about 1914. I just want to serve Jehovah. That was his comment.
Well,
but yet if you flip it around, go ahead.
I'm going to say that's a good comment, isn't it, Michael?
For him.
Yeah, for him, yeah. That's it. I mean, he's just going to keep his nose clean. He's not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Yeah.
Yeah, But you know, if you flip it around, Rick, and you know, they say you got to worship in spirit and truth. You can't believe in this and you can't believe in that. They flip it around on us. But when you flip it around on them, they say, I just want to serve Jehovah. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got it, Mike. Hey, always good to hear from you. Always good to hear from you. Thank you,
You
Mike.
too.
Thank you. Well, there you go. Well, there you go. My goodness, things are happening this week. The news that's coming across the internet, it is just unbelievable. You want to talk about giving Watchtower a tarnished image? That's exactly what's going on. The world is catching up on these creeps. It really, really is. And then, of course, Chewy mentioned Christy Ann, and I'm going to put a shout out to all of those people: Wally, Christy Ann, Mike and Kim, see, whoever they would be, all of you folks, just keep up the good work. It's working. All of this exposure is bringing the Watchtower down. It's from all of us speaking up. We're like cockroaches coming out of the woodwork. We're doing a job on the Watchtower. One of us goes, another one pops up. So keep up the good work. All of you guys that are out there doing your videos, and all of you activists, even people calling in. Michael right here tonight, he's an activist. He's calling in. People can hear his voice. Do you know what that does for people listening into our live streaming and listening into the archives? Wow, there's people are speaking up. It's just not me that has issues with the Watchtower. So it all comes out smelling like a rose. So thank you guys. Keep up the good work. Now, the other thought. Now, I tell you, I don't know if you caught it this week or not, but something that came across my mind this week alone, in the last 10 days, there was actually 4 people, actually more than that because it was multiple shootings, of mistaken approaches to homes. Now, let me clarify what I'm saying here. I'll just tell you right off the bat, you saw it on the news like I did in Kansas. For example, an 84-year-old man actually shot and killed a young man who was coming to his door. The young man was only, I think, early 20s, late teens, and he knocked on the wrong door. He went to pick something up, and he knocked on the wrong door in this Kansas neighborhood, and this 84-year-old man shot him. He thought the young man was breaking into his house. Well, that was one example I saw this week on the news. And then another one was a 20-year-old woman was shot and killed after her friend turned into the wrong driveway in upstate New York. So a woman driving down the road had a passenger in the car, pulled into the wrong driveway. Somebody got upset. They didn't know who it was that was pulling in the driveway, and actually shot and killed the woman. Can you imagine that? So those are a couple of examples. Here's another one. And this was out in North Carolina, I believe it was. People are still looking for the gunman after a 6-year-old girl and her parents were shot Tuesday night, just this last Tuesday night in Gaston County. And it all happened. Let me tell you how it happened. There was a little girl, 6-year-old girl, was just playing with a basketball. And the basketball rolled down the hill into the suspect's yard. So he came out. He got so mad that the ball ran there, and the little girl came to get it. He started firing shots. The little girl's father and mother were going down the hill with the little girl. He shot them all. Now, this is what's going on. And I wanted to bring this up tonight because this is happening. There's another incident too. We won't go into it, but there's 4 incidents this week alone that have had shootings of people showing up, making simple mistakes, like knocking on a person's door with the wrong house or driving into someone's driveway. But I mentioned here on the 6 screens before, Jehovah's Witnesses, they still want to go door to door. They, everyone else gave it up. You don't have insurance men coming to the door anymore. Remember, they used to come around years ago and collect the premium. Remember, they used to do that? Or the Avon lady, she used to come and try to sell you cosmetics. The milkman, the full of brush man, all of these people, they don't go door to door anymore. But who goes door to door? the Jehovah's Witnesses. And friends, I'm going to tell you something. It's getting very, very dangerous. And I'm certainly not trying to over amplify things. I'm not trying to make things sound sensational. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're listening to this program tonight and you're going door to door, I want you to do something for me. Send me an invitation to your funeral. It's getting that dangerous. I mean it. And I'm not just blowing wind when I say that. I've been getting messages coming in here, the 6 screens, that is blowing my mind. In fact, one person gave me information concerning his mother. This young man is out of the witnesses, but, he's kind of like fading. But he said his mother is the diehard witness. And she said to him the other day, if I die out in service, I'm doing what is right. In other words, that's the place I want to die. Being like a martyr out in field service. So, I'll tell you what, the Watchtower, they have no concern. They have no love for the flock whatsoever. They're not, the big guys aren't going door to door, so they have no worries for their own safety. But the rank and file, well, they better be out there knocking on doors. That's what the Watchtower wants them to do. As a matter of fact, even another message I got coming into the 6 screens this week. And a man wrote me concerning his wife. And he said his wife is refusing, in view of all of these people getting shot and going to the wrong doors or whatever and spooking people out. You get a knock on your door today. I got a knock yesterday from someone delivering a package. It kind of spooks you out. Nobody knocks on doors anymore. You look through the peephole. Who is it? It wasn't that way all the time. At one time, people could come to your door. Oh, it's nice to see you. Not anymore. It freaks you out when someone comes knocking on your door, especially if they do it hard. I mean, serious. So this man gave me information concerning his wife, and his wife is a full-fledged witness. And he said, my wife refused to take our kids house to house this week. They were going to have service in a rough neighborhood. And no, she did not want to take the children there. So, I don't think the Watchtower is going to change on this.
She sounds like a smart cookie.
Well, she is a smart cookie, Pixie. And, I'll tell you, a lot of people, and I'm not sitting here blowing wind. You say, come on, Rick, you're exaggerating. No, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to look you right in the face, and I'm going to take my glasses off. I'm going to look right in that camera right there, and I'm going to tell you something. This idea of going door to door, the witnesses don't like it anymore. And I'm going to tell you right away, I'm going to look you right in the eye. Many witnesses are leaving because of having to go door to door. They don't like it, and they're looking at it as dangerous. So that's waking many up right now. But, none of these men, governing body members, branch people, any of the leadership, even elders, they could care less about you or anyone going door to door. That they care about one thing only, and that is staying in their positions of authority over others. They don't care if any Jehovah's Witnesses get killed in the line of duty. It will make for good persecution, right? That's what it does. Now, the thing to remember here is, in fact, I'll tell you another. I'm getting messages here. I read you these messages. You say, "Oh, come on, Rick, is this true?" In fact, the person's older now, but they said, I got information from him. He said when he was a kid going door to door, he was going door to door in the worst, most crack-infested area in North Philadelphia in the 1980s. And he was told, he was only 10 years old at the time, and he had tears in his eyes when an older brother he was out in service with, the older brother told him to hold his Bible up to his chest, and that would serve as armor if someone started shooting at them. It brought tears to his eyes. Friends, this is not in any way Well, I'm trying to rock your boat is what I'm trying to do. If you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm telling you that this is getting dangerous. Send me an invitation to your funeral, really, because that's what it's coming to. Do you guys?
Hey, Rick,
Yes.
believe it or not, in my neighborhood, I saw, because there are a lot of apartment buildings in my neighborhood, and just Thursday, I saw a group, four of them, four witnesses back, and I haven't seen them in a while. They're not allowed in my building because my building is co-op, but I saw them out on the street from my window. They're back. Obviously in my neighborhood, because they definitely were four witnesses. They're back, knocking door to door, at least in my neighborhood in New York City, in Queens, in New York. I definitely saw them because I used to see pre-pandemic. I used to see them all the time because there's a lot of apartment buildings, but I just saw them Thursday. They're back out again.
Well, surely now you answer this question for me. If you were still a witness, would you go door to door where you live there in New York?
Pre-pandemic, I didn't even think they were anymore, are very limited. But now, I thought it was kind of a limited thing because I've seen like not in all the subway stations where I used to see the table or, set up. I've seen the setup again a few days this week. They're back slowly but surely. They're surely, a pun, but they're coming back.
Yeah.
They're back. They're coming back. They're coming back. And like I said, across the street from me, I saw them Thursday.
Oh yeah, no, they're out. No, they've been out now for the last couple of months. They're mustering up the troops and they're trudging door to door, knocking on doors all over the place. Well, thank you.
Yeah, they're coming back. Yeah, I mean, I like what's happening in light of the last few days. I mean, if you have any common sense, it used to be back in the day in the '60s. Oh, that's my persecution. I will stand. I will always stand for Jehovah. But now, with all this coming up, I don't think that's going to be the same mindset anymore.
No, I'm with you. I tell you what, I was even talking to my wife today about this very thing. And, at one point going back, 25 years ago, well, not that long, 20 years ago, I had two daughters that were pioneers and they were out, knocking on doors. I would tell them today, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't want you out there.
Right.
You don't know who's behind the door. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it. No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Exactly. And I remember one time when I was growing up as a kid, I was about 10 or 11, I was working with another sister, and we knocked on this door, and this guy, obviously drunk, came to the door, and the sister that I was with would say, trying to get out of it, obviously said, we'll come back later. We've got, some other doors, whatever. She said, we'll come back later. And I'm like, just being a kid, I'm looking at her like, really? Are you really going to knock again? Which that was just her thing, to say, we're not, because back in the day, of course, drunk people, crazy people, people with guns, dogs,
perverts.
JWs that are bitten by dogs.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Shirley. Thank you very much. Always good to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, thank you. A couple of months ago, we had a Jehovah's Witness elder and a pioneer sister come ringing the doorbell. Which is interesting about that is Connie's got a sign right above the door. It says no soliciting, and it shows a man holding a book bag in a suit. That can only be one person or one group of people, and that's Jehovah's Witnesses. He rang the doorbell. I was thrilled to see him. I had him in. I had my Bible ready, but when I told him that I had read the Truth book and the Paradise Earth book, he couldn't get out of here fast enough. But the point that I want to make is that the governing body tells the witnesses that we went to the Supreme Court and we have the right to preach. Well, the First Amendment gives you the right to preach, but not at somebody's door or go onto their property. When I was stationed in Tennessee, it wasn't an odd sight to see somebody on a soapbox reading the Bible. They were Southern Baptist, I believe. So that is what the Supreme Court allows Jehovah's Witnesses to do. It doesn't give the Jehovah's Witnesses the right to come onto your property. Now, I got a couple of signs that I'd like to read to the audience. And it says here, and you can buy these signs. They're on plastic, and they're a big sign. You can put it in your door. You can put it, on your driveway or a sign. It says, notice of no trespassing.
You may only enter this property if you meet one of the following conditions. You have the owner's or legal occupant's express, written, or verbal authorization. You are responding to a fire emergency. You are a U.S. mail carrier or commercial delivery service. You possess a valid constitutional Fourth Amendment warrant signed by a judge. Those are the conditions that you can come up to somebody's door. It doesn't say if you're Jehovah's Witness or if you're in the preaching work, as this sign outlines, that you have to have the written express authorization by the owner. And people that are Jehovah's Witnesses that are just randomly going up to people's doors, knocking, do not have that express verbal authorization. The notice goes on to say, this notice of no trespassing includes, but is not limited to, government officials, agencies, utility companies, or any other person or parties that does not meet the previous stated requirements. That's the 4 that I just read. Now, here's what can happen. Violators will be treated as intruders. Those trespassing are subject to civil and criminal penalties per. Now, here's the statute. So, you know, we're not making this up. If you want to look it up, it's USC Title 18, Section 241 and 242. These are the penalties. Now, here's what some of them are. It says civil remedies will also be sought against agents or agencies per, and here's another, USC 42, Section 1983. Now it goes on to say, and these signs are selling by the thousands out here in California. The owners or legal occupants refuse to permit any access, search, audit, assessment, or inspection whatsoever of this property without the presentation of a warrant prepared and prescribed by the 4th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things seized. Any person or agency entering this property without the express consent of the owner or legal occupant and without proper warrants as described above will be considered, and here it is, an intruder attempting to trespass, extort, injure, threaten, harass, intimidate, or otherwise jeopardize the life and properties of the owner or legal occupants of this property. Violators can trigger fines up to $10,000 and imprisonment of sentences up to 10 years or both. Owners or legal occupants may use necessary force at their sole discretion. Let me read that last sentence again. Owners or legal occupants may use necessary force at their sole discretion. Now, we're hearing stories about people getting shot with their basketball rolls up to someone else's driveway, and a 9-year-old or wherever she was gets shot because she's picking up a basketball. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, let me just finish this off. If you need to provide any notice to the owner or legal occupants, the mailing address is available from the county assessor's office. Any such notice must be mailed via U.S. mail. Okay, you know, think about it. This is serious stuff. They are just the law. This is the law is saying that you can shoot somebody who comes to your door and you don't want them there.
That's absolutely false. That is 100% false. Every state, you have to have your life in danger. There has to be a felony afoot. They have to be threatening your life. You can't just shoot someone because they come up and knock at your door. A drunk might come up and knock at your door. A person looking for directions might come up and knock at your door. And so don't dramatize that, because that's just not true. You'll end up in prison if you give that kind of advice to people. I know, I live in Florida and I'm a gun owner. I've owned guns all my life. I'm very in tune with the gun laws. And that's just false. You cannot shoot anybody just because they come onto your property. It has to be something where you're being threatened. They have a knife in their hand, they're beating their way through your door. Then you have every right to defend yourself. But if someone comes up and knocks on your door, a Jehovah's Witness, anybody, a student, kids selling magazines, it doesn't matter what, even if they ignore your no trespass, they have to have the opportunity to read the sign and then leave. So you can't just do that. So don't encourage that, because that's very serious when these things happen. Just like I outlined at the beginning of the show, those people are going to go to jail because they had absolutely zero right to shoot people just because they turned around in their driveway.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to...
It just angers me to hear you say that. It sounds like you're justifying it.
First of all, I wouldn't want anybody to shoot anybody for any reason other than having your life threatened.
I think so.
Okay, so what I'm trying to express to the audience is this is the law in California. And I'll just read that last sentence again. It says violators can trigger fines up to $10,000, which is true, and prison sentence up to 10 years. And the last line is, owners or legal occupants may use necessary force at their sole discretion. That's what it says. In California, they may feel threatened if they see a stranger at the door. They, maybe they'll go to court over it. Maybe it'll be a discussion. Maybe they'll say it's manslaughter. I don't know, but I'm just allowing the audience to know. In California, these are the statutes. It's a U.S. Title 18 and Section 241 and 242. They can read it themselves and they can discern. But if you feel threatened, some people feel threatened. I can tell you something, just going to the doors myself 30, 40 years ago, I'm almost 6'3" and I'm over 200 pounds. I open the door and they see a big guy there. I see people get intimidated, whether or not they'd be intimidated to the extent that they would draw a gun and shoot. But I did hear a story just very recently. It happened in Texas where everybody can wear a gun, and they advocate that the homeowners wear a gun in a lot of those towns. And this guy went to a house with a toolkit, and he was given the wrong address. He was an air conditioning repairman, and he knocked on the door, and evidently she didn't hear it, or she had earphones. I don't know all the particulars, but she didn't see the toolbox. She turned around, and there was a man in her kitchen, and she shot the guy 3 times and killed him. And he was the father of 3 children. It was just a mistake. But these things happen. And is all I'm letting the audience know is that going out in field service can be dangerous. My conscience got attacked by a pit bull. I wasn't out in service, but these things happened on her own property. So these things do happen. And Jehovah's Witnesses like to tell a story. And Rick told this story about a month and a half ago, maybe on 6 Screens, that this young sister comes up to the hall and she came up to a door and she presented Watchtower and AI, and the guy was a rapist. And there was another guy waiting for her to be pulled in. And the guy said, why didn't you pull her in? He said, well, it was 2 big guys behind her, leaving the impression that Jehovah's Holy Spirit is protecting people door to door, and the angels can appear, as men standing behind this.
With the hill, that's been around.
Yeah,
ever since I was a kid.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I heard a similar story that there was a man who just was released from prison. He was a rapist, and this other friend of his was on probation. He was living with them, and they were both rapists. And they, one guy came to the door, the other guy was waiting behind the door, and he said, "Oh, you know, there was two angels or something behind it. They want sisters to go door to door and place magazines or start Bible studies or whatever. That's what they want. They know there's a threat, and they're not telling the brothers and sisters that there is a threat to their safety." And they're
don't get me wrong. I don't disagree with you that it's dangerous. I do agree that it's dangerous because there are people that are unhinged enough to think that they can use a gun to stop somebody from breaking into their car or onto their property. And believe it or not, even that's not a felony. Your life's not in danger. I mean, most states have a castle doctrine, which means in your house, if somebody enters your house without your knowledge or without your permission, then you're allowed to potentially shoot them because you have no clue what they're there to do. But that usually stops outside the door unless there's some sort of imminent threat. Like I said, they're beating on your door, they're standing out there threatening. There was a case recently that a young boyfriend of a girl, he started knocking and trying to beat on the door and was beating his way through the door. And the father grabbed his gun and shot the boyfriend. And that was justifiable because he was actually beating his way through the door in such anger. It is dangerous. I've even had dogs sicked on me out in service. I've had that happen too. I've had people threaten me to get off their property. And, that's why I remember the witnesses came out a long time ago and said that if you saw no trespassing signs, it was on you if you decided to go to the door. And it was your discretion, and you would reap the consequences that they basically weren't going to back you up if you went on to no trespassing. And so I remember us going out in service, and if we saw no trespassing sign, most people in the group would not go. I have a no trespassing sign on my door, but I live in a community where it's cookie cutter houses. So it's not very far from the steps, from the sidewalk to my door. And so people, the police will even tell you they have the right to come up to your door. They still, if they're a salesman, they have to have proper permits and everything. There's not much they can do because I know I was on the HOA and this got addressed multiple times. And the police would say, there's nothing we can do. They're allowed to come up and knock on your door. And, in some cases, as long as they're not soliciting, you really don't have any recourse whatsoever. And I still have people knock on my door periodically. They'll knock on the door and then step back 4 or 5 feet like that makes a difference. And sometimes I'm nasty with them and sometimes I'm nice to them. It depends on my mood. But I do agree it's dangerous.
Well, you make some good points. And I'm just, going to reiterate what the California law says. It says that if you entering this property, I'm reading it verbatim, without the express consent of the owners or legal occupants and without a warrant, as described to above, will be considered as an intruder. So you're saying that you have to be inside the physical house, and the laws in this state are saying you are an intruder if you're inside their property lines. And I can read that again.
Again, in Florida, at least, I won't speak for California. I can only tell you what Florida, and we're a very liberal state. If I was outside and Rick came into my yard with a knife and started threatening me, then yes, I could shoot him in the case of self-defense because he's within a few feet. He's got motive. He's got anger. He's got a weapon. He's within a few feet of me. Then yes, then I'm justified. That's okay. But again, it's usually that your life is in danger. That you have to have some sort of situation.
You could protect.
Not just because you're inside the house and he's standing on your front stoop and you're like, oh, I feel afraid. Let me shoot through the door. I mean, that's just. Because it could be.
Well, let's bring some others.
Door.
Let's bring some others on here and see what they have to say about it. Go ahead, you're on with us. We got a lot of people who want to chime in. So, Scott, thank you, though, Scott. Very good information, and Dick too. Thank you, Dick. I found that very fascinating. We got a number of people who want to speak up. So So go ahead. Yeah, we got Dan, I believe it is. Yep.
Yeah, this is Dan. Yeah, I was just listening in, and I was appreciating both sides of that thing. What Dick was saying too. You know how dangerous it is. Our world is not the same. And years ago, I went to a store in L.A. and the brothers told me, they said, "Don't go down this block, you get shot. Don't go down this block. If you get behind somebody, don't honk your horn." You know, and I'm like, forget it. I'm not going out. Well, the whole world's like that. I'm not saying everything's Compton. But I'm saying the whole world is divided at a level like it's never been before. The hate is high. My whole neighborhood's filled with guns. And most of them, and it's sad. Now, I'm going to go back to the other guy from Florida. My whole neighborhood filled up with guns. And they were not bought over the counter. People were just, hey, you want a 9mm? You want to buy this? You want to buy that? You want to buy a 300 mag? You want to buy a sawed-off? Yeah, you know. And so we bought all these guns. Everybody did. Machine guns, everything. So this is our neighborhood. And there's no trespassing signs, but we went down and took a safety course with the pistols. You know what they told us? You're better off without them. They said, because if you kill somebody, you're guilty till proven innocent. And I know California could give a rat's ass. If you shot somebody, they would lock your ass up, because they told us, you shoot somebody, you got to prove it. Don't matter even if they come in your house. This guy was warning us. Now, I'll tell you how weird it is here. One cop told me, I had a guy do my front, my driveway. He covered it with sealant. And then they kept coming back. 10 different people come back and said, well, I'm the owner. You know, you need to pay me. And I said, well, I paid the guy. And I took a picture of him, giving him the check and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, they kept coming back. And one day I drove away with a motorcycle. And I said, I'm just going to swing back by the house. And there were some people walking around my house. And so I called the cops. And I talked to this one cop, and I said, hey, I got these guys snooping around my house. They've come back a dozen times. I've told them to leave. What do I do? And what do you think he told me? He said, shoot their ass and kill them. A cop. Another cop told me, I said, you know, I got some people that are, you know, I think selling drugs, and I like to fire my gun in there, you know, my 300. And the cop said, you fire that bullet in the air, you're responsible for that damn bullet. And it was like night and day between cops. But Rick, the whole show, what you're saying is it's volatile. It's volatile. And here's the point I want to make. The witnesses on the top, the governing body, are pushing these brothers, like Borgie said, to go door to door. And you know why? Because you can't make disciples sitting on your ass with a cart with a kickstand on it. You can't. You're not going to, people are just going to walk away from you. So you got to go to the door. And that's how loveless the governing body is at the top, pushing those brothers, get your ass out there, preach, go to that door. They're putting them at risk, and they could care less. The governing body could care less. We want fucking disciples, excuse my language. We want disciples. Get your ass out there and go door to door. And it's hostile, Rick. I got posted things on my lawn that says, do not enter under any circumstance. And this guy from Florida's right. People come up and, you know, you check them out. And, yeah, you know, you talk to them. But here's another thing, Rick. People are stealing packages like shit. So everybody's got ringers on their phone. They don't give a damn if you're in a suit. You know, I said to stay off my lawn. And here's the danger. Most people don't know about the laws. The people that buy handguns think they can shoot anybody. You can't just shoot anybody. The people in this neighborhood are walking around. I got kids with 45, 9mm. We have an open carry here. And so it's like the wild, wild west. And they're ready to shoot somebody. They're all excited. Like, man, I'm going to blow this fucker's head. You know, I'm like, whoa, take it easy, kid, man. How old are you? 22? And they don't know the laws. They don't know the laws. But you got witnesses tromping around, and people are like, get off my lawn. I told you, stay off. It's like you got a lot of knuckleheads with guns that don't know the laws. And so I thank God I went to that class where they told me, if you shoot somebody, you're guilty. You'll probably go to jail. So I know that California law says that. It probably says the same thing here. But this guy pleaded with us in a gun safety class. The last thing you better do is pull that trigger. So I'm like, oh God, why do I even have them? But anyway, I took too much time, Rick. Thanks for letting me share.
Well, no, always good to hear. Always good to hear. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
All right. I'm in New Hampshire, and we have an open. There's a concealed carry. You don't need a permit in New Hampshire for a concealed carry, but there are still laws in effect. So a friend of our community, he had all those signs that you guys were talking about staying off your property unless you have a warrant and all that other stuff. And there was this real estate person that just kept hounding this man and coming on his property, passing all the no trespassing signs and everything. And he actually, so he came out onto his porch with a weapon. He did not brandish it and aim it at her, but he told this real estate person to get off his property after several times before without a weapon. Well, this time he came out with a weapon, and he thought that he was within his rights. Well, that man ended up being arrested and charged felony. And there ended up having to be a big save free ward bird, you know, he was in Moultonboro, New Hampshire. And it became a big political thing, and there were signs everywhere, all over. And it took an act of Congress to get this man freed. He was charged with a felony, so he finally was able to get freed from prison, but he still is not allowed to hunt or own a gun or any of that stuff, because even though the laws said that he could do that, and it was, but because his life wasn't in danger, and this person was totally unwanted and totally told many times, just, you're trespassing, get off of my property, I am not selling. This real estate person just kept pushing the limit until he ended up. So now he's scarred for life, because all he did is come out onto his porch with a weapon, even though he did not aim it at anybody, and he was allowed to have these weapons. So, so having all those signs really, it feels like you're justified to threaten these people off your property. Be careful. That's my advice, because even it's such a fine line.
Well, Tom, let me ask you a question, Tom. This is Rick Farron here in Massachusetts at the Six Screens Control Panel. So anyways, so we got that man got in trouble for using his gun. But now think about this. Would it be better to have a sign up there, and, someone did try to break into your house, and then but listen to me now. I mean, if the sign was up there, it would be better to have it up there. If you had to go into court and face this, you could say, look at Your Honor, I had a sign on my front door that said this. Now, that's not going to give you the liberty to shoot the person, but if that person tried to enter your house, even at that point, like you were just saying, that the man, shot, and did you say he killed the man that came to his door?
No, he never did.
No.
So the thing is, the person never entered and went into his house. The person drove up his long driveway with all these signs and warnings. Okay.
Yep.
The person was not allowed on his private property, but because he happened to walk out with a weapon, he was charged with criminal threatening, even though that person had no right to be on his property. She was trespassing, and I'm just saying.
Oh, no, the laws, I'm sure, in different states.
Signs up does not protect you from criminal prosecution.
Right.
Well,
I know one thing. Even when I was a witness going door to door, and I saw signs all the time: no trespassing, no trespassing. But most witnesses don't pay attention to it, anyways. Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you for coming in.
That's all I have to say.
Well, okay.
That is the law, even in Florida. You can't brandish. And if you do a quick Google search for California castle doctrine, you'll see that there are articles that are very plain that you have to be an imminent threat in order to use lethal force. I mean, the bottom line is if you pull a gun, you better intend on using it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not there for threatening. It's there to protect your life, the life of your family. You know, and it is tricky. And I had a cop tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you were justified in shooting. Your life will be irrevocably changed forever. You know.
Well, it's best not to use the gun, right? You hope the sign can at least scare people away. Okay, we got more people want to call in. Go ahead. 206, you're on with us. 206, you want to say something?
Yeah, Rick.
Oh, that's Wally. Hi.
Is that Wally? Go ahead, Wally.
I was just curious. I was thinking, has there ever been any like documentary or like news stories that were published nationwide about sort of the efficacy of witnesses bringing their children? Because I mean, obviously there's these issues of safety and concern, and I doubt that there will ever be like laws changed because good luck with all of that. But I just wonder, like, if anyone has ever tried to make, or there's ever been a documentary or getting in touch with like journalists to actually like talk about some of the issues surrounding how you have an organization telling people to take their children, you know, when they're 6 months old, when they're a year old, to unknown neighborhoods. Like, you have no idea who's going to be on the other side of the door. And it just seems like you're needlessly endangering your child. So I just wondered if there was any efforts to get more public awareness of that.
Well, Wally, I can remember it wasn't in view of endangerment to children, but there were articles suggesting the narrative was focused around child labor laws, that, you know, to have children go door to door. You know, they're not capable. It's like the Watchtower is using them as little, you know, underage people delivering a message for them. That has come up.
Mm-hmm.
That has come up. But but you know, the question you raised though, Wally, is a good question. That's a darn good question. To my knowledge, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll try and work on that or do something with that, because someone called me like a couple months ago and was bringing this up, and I didn't really think about it. But then what happened in Italy and in Germany and in Colorado, and I'm like, okay, you have this breeding ground of mental instability with the social isolation and the shunning, and people hate witnesses. I mean, it's unfortunate because we shouldn't hate witnesses because they're just victims too. But people do. They just really, really, really dislike Watchtower and witnesses. So the fact of like bringing your little children along with you as like a hated group of people and just knocking randomly on strangers' doors seems, I don't know, it just seems real icky to me.
Well, it is icky. And Wally, I want to continue to encourage you. You're doing a really good job with the YouTubes, and keep doing that. All of the YouTubers, yourself and Christiane and Mike and Kim and all of the people, they're doing a really good job exposing the Watchtower. So keep up the good work, Wally.
Well, thank you. I really feel like the community is shifting in a really nice way, and we're having like more people that are all more cooperative and stuff. So it seems like we're going in the right direction.
Oh yeah, the way we have to look at this, I look at the more the merrier. The more people we have. I mean, I'm encouraging anyone, get out there and make some YouTubes. Get out there and become a real activist, because I'll tell you, it's damaging to the Watchtower, Wally. Good job. Good job.
Hell yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
You got it. All right.
Have a good show.
Thank you. Thank you very
Rick?
much. Yes, Randy.
I just wanted to say that you brought up what I was worrying about this whole week. I worry about my daughter and my grandchildren going door to door, that something like that could happen to them. You know, and also I might mention that laws are different in different states and that they're changing constantly. I've only had to, I guess, warn somebody that twice, once in Texas and once in Oklahoma, that I would use deadly force against them. Actually, in Texas, I warned them right in front of the police, you know, and the police, only if your life's in danger. I said, well, what do you think? The guy's just hitting a pipe in his hand saying he's going to hit me over the head. What do you think? I'm not going to think it's in danger if I see him coming at me. And because I just sat right there on the ground like an Indian with his legs crossed and told the guy, come on, right in front of the policeman, you know. But anyway, And the other, the other time was here in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has changed it now. What they are, you don't have to have them inside your house, and it don't have to be in fear of of bodily injury to yourself. You can do it to protect your property. If somebody is stealing your property, you can shoot them dead. They're paid for. And it's open carry law here, which means you can go out without any concealed weapon or anything on you. I sometimes, when we've had escaped criminals in the area, I went out with a holster bolted with me. Fortunately, I never seen anybody, but that's how it is here. Even if you read the law, just look at it. Even if you're in your car, it's the same way, because your car is actually your property that you're in. That's how the law in Oklahoma reads it. If you're in or own your property,
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, you guys
just. I mean, nobody wants to go the litigation or anything. So it's better not to do it at all, and it'd be a terrible thing to weigh on your head. I would never want to kill anybody, but if I thought that my family was in danger, or myself, I'll give you an idea of what happened one time. This killed my brother-in-law. They come over. He had 100 acres here in Oklahoma, and they come over his property. He had one of these high voltage power lines going across. They sprayed him with this poison, and it killed him not too long after that. You read the MSDS sheets of that poison, and it says if the pilot, they were in a helicopter too, so you can imagine how that pushes it down, the spray. And they said that if they even get it on their clothes, they're not supposed to wash their clothes. They're supposed to dispose of it. That's how deadly it was.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we're in Oklahoma now, and we had this one of these oil field, and my dad was in oil field. I don't really understand it all, but they have these valves ever so often, and sometimes they will release the gas into the air, and you never know. I mean, my dad said when they pump stuff down in these disposal wells, they said, we don't know where it's going to or what it is we're putting it in. We're just ordered to go pump this and get rid of it. Well, these gas lines, sometimes they release this pressure, and they're supposed to tell the EPA here, the local ones, what time their environmental control, what time they're releasing it and all that. One time they didn't do it because I called, and because we heard it, a strong smell. I come in and put blankets around the bottom of the door so we wouldn't breathe it, and called the EPA, got them on it, and then the oil company called me up, and I had to let them know, hey, I mean, I have weapons that that can cause a fatality, and I know how to use them. And if that happens again, I'm going to use it. And so guess what? It's never happened again.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad it didn't. But boy, I'll tell you, Oklahoma, man, they sound like they're still in the wild, wild west out there, Randy. Jeez, I mean,
well, I mean, really, there's actually people here in Oklahoma, and there's probably this way in all the other states. They're what they call sovereignists. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Oh, yes, I have. Yep.
Some of my friends that are actually an ex-JW friend, she's in police force, her and her husband, and they said the police are scared to death of them.
Yeah.
And according to history, I mean, I think they've got it right on history. No, I mean, I'm not going to go do like they do. I'm not going to stand up either. But that's what we're supposed to have. We're supposed to be sovereign people, in this country. We're not supposed to have somebody coming being over us. But if you look at our driver's license, they put all your name. You may know this already. It's all in capitals. Nobody writes their name in capitals. But that all comes from when they were hauling cargo by sea.
Yeah.
The manifesto of property that they'd have on board, they list it in capital letters.
Oh yeah.
So when the government started doing that, putting names in capital, is them trying to say, hey, the people's now our property. And that's not right. But I mean, I'm not going to argue with them.
Well, no, I
license and all that.
I like Oklahoma. You got me really excited. I mean, that sounds like a state that's going to keep your rights. Up here in Massachusetts, I mean, boy, I tell you, they have some of the toughest gun laws in the United States. But I like that idea in Oklahoma. My goodness gracious, you still have some freedom. Well, good for you, Randy. You're a good man. Don't you ever change. Go ahead. Who's this coming in? Is this Denise? I think it's Denise. Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, I'm in Oklahoma too, and I just want to say something. We got open carry here. We got castle law. We got the make my day law, all that kind of stuff. Keep people off your property. But you can't just up and shoot somebody if they're on your property. You have to warn them and tell them to get off your property. If they refuse to leave your property or continue towards you, then you can shoot them. But you don't just shoot and ask questions later. I mean, it's not that Wild West, you know.
Well, if you catch them hot wiring your car and they're trying to steal your car, you can. I'm not saying I would. I'm not saying I would.
I believe that you still have to tell them, get off my property, leave that alone, and give them the opportunity to do so before you decide to shoot them.
Well, in my opinion, if you start talking to them and they're doing something like that at midnight, they're going to start shooting at you.
Well, you don't know who's armed, but you know, I'm not going to go out and face them face to face. I'll yell out my window or out my door or something. You know, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, and you know
if they refuse to leave, then you're darn right I'll shoot them. I got guns too.
Earlier, somebody mentioned about how the cop told them if you shoot that up in the air, you're responsible for that bullet. That's because that you are responsible. You are responsible even in Oklahoma because that bullet could go a block away or a mile away. You know, if it goes up, it's going to come down.
Yeah, you know.
I had a neighbor actually. I could hear him shooting his machine gun. Boom, 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 and then all at once I heard it go bing. It hit my house.
Yeah, well, here in Oklahoma on certain holidays, you know, people in the neighborhoods will shoot off their guns, and I don't mind it when they do that because then I know where the guns are that people have, and what kind of gun they have.
I don't mind it either.
Yeah, but see, I won't shoot up in the air. If I'm going to shoot my gun on a holiday or something, I'll shoot it into the ground. I won't shoot it up in the air.
Yeah, my neighbor, just to be clear too, my neighbor that did that, it was not intentional. I had to get the sheriff to come out, and he put on a bulletproof vest. I stood behind him. I said, maybe I should have invited you in the building, you know, but I'm going to stand behind you since you've got the vest on while I talk to you. And he went and told the neighbor. The neighbor was shooting at a tree. Well, you know those guns will have a recoil, so I'm sure he just missed it, but he just moved by one time. He could have done it 1,000 times, you know, over many years, and never happened. And this was a freak thing that hit my building. But he called me up and he apologized. He says, "Randy, I'll never do this again." He says, and you know what I told him? I said, "Yeah," because the police told him the same thing. Point it some other direction. I said, "Yeah. Once you point it the other way, over there where your mother-in-law lives."
Well, we're gonna move on to North Carolina. You guys are doing good here tonight. Thanks for calling in, Denise and Randy. We got North Carolina. Go ahead, North Carolina. You're on with us.
Hi, Rick. It's Sharon.
Yeah, Sharon.
I was just not worrying, but thinking about what Rich was saying about that woman who knocked on the door with the two rapists, and the guy wouldn't pull her in because he saw two guys behind her. How did she know that that's what was said? And how did she know they were rapists before she knocked on that door? Did she check the sex registry list and knocked on it anyway?
I don't know.
I'm a little puzzled about that, or is that just another one of their old Watchtower tales they want to send around?
Well, I think it's an urban legend. I really think it's a made-up legend. Yeah, you know.
Hey, it doesn't take sense, and if you think that out, even when you're thinking it out, it's not making sense. Because what is she doing? Putting Jehovah to the test to protect her from two rapists?
Well,
it just didn't sit with me right.
Well, it doesn't sit with anybody right. You're absolutely right. You're a smart woman, Sharon. Seriously, it doesn't make sense. But thank you for at least bringing that to our attention. You're on the ball. You're on the ball, really.
Hey, Sharon.
Thanks. Yes.
I've heard that story passed around. I think they recycle it. I think it's something they came up with because I'm from Rhode Island and I've heard that story.
Okay, because I'm from New York and I never heard that before.
You never heard it, but you know that we are quite a bit of ways away from each other, and stories just get passed around. It's like the telephone game with the witnesses. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead, Dick.
I heard it in the 70s, and I lived in.
Well, hold on. Scott, hold on 1 second. We're gonna go with Dick, then we'll go back to Scott. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, just want to kind of wrap it up. The Watchtower tells their witnesses that if there's a sign that says no soliciting, just ignore it because you're not soliciting. But in fact, you are soliciting. That's one thing I want to make. And every state has different laws about concealed weapons, shooting weapons. The brother that was on from New Hampshire, you don't need a permit. In Massachusetts, if you have a gun on you and you don't have a license to carry the permit, you go to jail for 2 years. So every state has different laws and so forth. But the point is, going door to door can be dangerous, and the Watchtower wants you to believe that you're going to be protected by angels or something like that, and it's not true. And they also want you to believe that Supreme Court gave the Jehovah's Witnesses a right to go up to somebody's door, and that is false, totally false. Thanks, Rick.
Well, Dick, always good to hear from you. Yeah, now I believe we got 304. Go ahead, 304. You're on with us.
Yeah, hello, Rick. Kurt, very good discussion. I think you've heard me say before that in my opinion, any door-to-door work today is outdated and dangerous. Wanted to ask you a question about that. Do you believe that the Watchtower could go on YouTube or even jw.org and do all the preaching work that way and just eliminate the door-to-door work? Thank you, Rick.
Well, that's what they're aiming for, Kurt. This media center, whether it ever gets built or not, is still up in the air. But that's what they're aiming to do, is to make it all online. Their witnessing will be very much like evangelists, Christian evangelists do on television. That's their goal, and they're trying to put this media center together. But the days of door-to-door are going the way of the buffalo. It's not working. The witnesses are getting no good response door-to-door. One time they were trained to be able to defend themselves scripturally. They're not trained anymore, Kurt. They go to the door, and if someone gets into a discussion about, well, let's say they get into a discussion about, let's go with 607, for example. And the Watchtower says that's the year that Jerusalem was destroyed. And everybody knows it isn't. But, they'll just say to the witness, to the householder, go on jw.org. Go on jw.org. They're not trained as we were going door to door 25 years ago, Kurt. Different ballgame.
I agree with you. Thank you, Rick.
Well, there you go. That's our good friend Kurt out there in West Virginia. Well, anyways, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. And tomorrow we do have a Sunday program. If you haven't listened to the Sunday programming, why don't you come in tomorrow starting at 1 o'clock? Now, on Sunday, we do get into theological matters. We do talk about the Bible. We don't talk about it on Saturday night. But if you're interested in theological teachings of the Watchtower and how wrong it is, join us tomorrow beginning at 1 o'clock right here on our Six Screens Telenetwork. Okay. Maybe we can move on. Do we have one more? Does Anonymous want to say something? If you do, you're on with us. If not, we're going to move on to our next story. Boy, I'll tell you what, lots of people coming in tonight. I'm really happy with what I see going on. We have a lot of people coming in on our radio telephone network as well as on YouTube and on our 6 Screens video suite. Friends, I'm telling you, I'm getting very excited. I'm doing the happy dance because I'm seeing so many people leaving the Watchtower. This is really a great thing. Dan, did you want to say something? Did Dan want to say something? Coming in from Idaho. Maybe not. Well, let's move on. Let's go here. I got a. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dan. Yep.
No, I didn't. I accidentally hit it. I was just making sure I was muted.
Well, they get all excited, on YouTube when you come on, Dan. The people love you. You are a.
I have some things I have some other things to share tonight, Rick. I'll let you get in your next story.
Yeah.
But I've got a powerful movie that I want to share with everybody that everybody needs to watch. And it's not just JW, it's Worldwide Church of God. But it will blow your mind.
All right. Well,
will blow your mind.
Well, we're looking. Well, we got plenty of time tonight because I did have a guest coming on at 9:30, but they couldn't come on tonight. So we'll have plenty of time to discuss so many things. We can all just kick back and relax. We can discuss so many things with people. We can hear from new people. We got plenty of time. We go to 11 o'clock tonight. So stay with us. So that's good. So I do have another news article. I get plenty of news articles this week. I mean, I'm not stuck for news articles. This week was a big week in exposing the Watchtower. It's like I cannot believe the bad press coming across the internet about the Watchtower. And then even when I get on jw.org, their official website, it's very, very simple to see what they're trying to do. Of course, they're really ranting and raving about, getting on apostate sites and don't do that. We know all of that. But what I've been noticing lately, and this is kind of like a reoccurring news event on jw.org, they keep bringing up the subject of alcohol. They keep bringing up the subject of alcohol. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'm just thinking about Anthony Morris. We know that Anthony Morris had, I'm not going to say he had a drinking problem because I don't know that for sure. But I do know that he loved scotch. We all know that. I mean, he was in a video in a New York liquor store buying $1,000 worth of it. I'm not saying that he was buying it all for himself. I don't know what his agenda was with that, but he was caught in a liquor store buying scotch. Now, there's nothing, that's not illegal to buy booze in a liquor store. Anyone over 21 can walk into a liquor store, at least in the state of Massachusetts, and they can buy a case of booze. That they can buy 10 cases of booze. Now, no one's going to stop them from doing it. But all of a sudden, I'm looking on jw.org. And all I see is, at least in the last couple of weeks, I've been examining this. They're talking an awful lot about alcohol. As a matter of fact, they even have a little 2 or 3 minute video. I'd like to really play that for you. I really, really would, because it's something that I think you should hear, because I think there's like a subliminal message going on here with alcohol being so talked about on jw.org. So let me see if I can't get that video up. I'd love to have you see it. And I know you'll find it very, very fascinating. So it's a little video on jw.org. So we're going to share it right now. If you're on our radio network, you'll hear it. But listen carefully to what's being said. And then we're going to dive into what I think's going on. This is a subliminal message, and it could be concerning Tony Morris, but you'll be the judge. I mean, I don't know, but let's share the video right now, and let's play the video so you can hear it right now.
Many people equate drinking with having a good time. But at Proverbs 23:32, the Bible says that alcohol can bite like a snake. Are there laws on drinking alcohol where you live? If so, you could be fined, be sent to community service, lose your freedom to drive, or even go to jail. Even if none of those things happen, alcohol can lower your inhibitions, and not in a good way. Under the influence, you could say or do things you'll later regret. But what if you're at a party and unexpectedly find that some are drinking and heading for trouble? What would you do? The Bible says that an intelligent person sees trouble coming and avoids it. Stop and think. What might happen if you stay? How could you leave before trouble comes without inviting ridicule? Here's a tip. Make a plan with your parents to call or text if you need to leave early. How about this? What would you do if someone pressures you to drink? At Romans 6:16, the Bible indicates that when you let others control your decisions, you become their slave. You could just follow along and let your peers rule your life. Or you could give a firm response, perhaps something like, "No thanks," or "Sorry, I'm not into that." What if you're out with friends and realize the driver's been drinking? According to the Bible, the person who spends time with fools will fare badly. What could happen if you let that person drive you home? What other options do you have? Try this. Avoid situations where you'll be with a driver who has a reputation for drinking and driving. Always have a plan B for transportation. Remember, you don't have to drink to have a good time, and you don't have to associate with people who think that you do. Have the courage to think past the drink.
All right, well, let's stop that right there. But I think that you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. Why is Jehovah's Witness website, jw.org? Now, this is the second alcohol commercial, not commercial, but program they put up about alcohol in the last month. So what is this all about? Why is the Watchtower doing this? Are they trying to tell you something? Is there a subliminal message to this? I'm beginning to think there is. Now, you guys know, you've been witnesses long enough, and you know when they used to have a local needs talk, that was generally given a week, maybe 2 weeks after a person was disfellowshipped or disassociated themselves. They'd have a little local needs talk, and they wouldn't come out and identify the person that was disfellowshipped or disassociated, but they would, maybe have a talk on apostasy, maybe have a talk on adultery, or maybe have a talk on fraudulent activity. So now I'm picking up here that the watchtower.org, a month and a half ago, Tony Morris is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses, as it was announced. Now all of a sudden we see 2 videos talking about not drinking alcohol. I mean, they're not condemning it, but they're saying, at least in the video we just saw, to be very, very careful. And they even showed a car crash. They showed in the cartoon, the little drawing, they showed a car crash of witnesses that may be drinking, and they got into a car crash because they shouldn't have drank so much. And they're even saying that, get a driver if you do drink enough to create an issue. So this is, look, I'm just kind of reading between the lines here. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that, I've heard, one of the stories I've heard, and I can't substantiate it, is that Tony Morris was in a car crash. Now, then that was brought up last Saturday night. And I kind of thought about it, but I'm saying, well, why wouldn't the witness organization say that? He was a governing body member in any organization, any Christian organization, as they call themselves. Wouldn't they come on and say, we want to report that our governing body member, Tony Morris, was in a bad auto accident? They didn't say anything to that nature. 6 weeks ago, they just said that Tony Morris is no longer one of Jehovah's Witness governing body members. That's what they said. So a lot of people have been wondering, but now we see these videos showing up about alcohol abuse on jw.org. So, we've heard so many things about Tony Morris and why he may not be a governing body member anymore, from perhaps being involved in the Pennsylvania investigations into child molestation. But I'm still kind of circling around and buzzing around this drinking alcohol. We do know that Tony did that, and I'm just thinking that it's a possibility here that the Watchtower is telling us something without really telling us, if you get what I'm saying. So I don't know. That's just a feeling I have. What do you think, 615? Go ahead. Well, 615, you're on with us. What do you think? Yes.
It's Eric. How are you?
Good.
I was just thinking that it probably really well could be linked to Tony Morris, but just to speak from experience from being in the organization for over 30 years, in and out, alcohol is just it's abused straight up. I mean, it's almost like the witnesses can't have pot or do anything else, or I don't know. It's like, well, that's the one thing that we can have, and all the gatherings, there was quite a bit of booze, drunkenness at times. I don't know. I think they've developed a problem with the strict rules and the with the way the organization has been, and that alcohol has just become something that a lot of people do. And I know it differs in different congregations. Some congregations, I've heard Spanish congregations that don't even 2 beers is their rule. Like everybody is different. But where I came from, the booze flowed freely.
Well, you're absolutely right. And as far as this idea of local needs talks after a person's disfellowshipped, I notice even when I go back and think about my disfellowshipping, well, Satan kicked me out of his organization back in 2005. I was disfellowshipped then. And then it was like a couple of weeks later, they did a local needs talk. And the local needs talk was all on apostasy. So they didn't name me in the local needs talk, but, people would assume that's what happened. So now we see this going on jw.org, and I see these drinking alcohol videos, and to be careful and watch yourself, and they're showing a car crash. All of a sudden, my antenna is up on this. Something is not passing the smell test here. I think the Watchtower is telling us something without really coming out and telling us. That's what I think, Eric. What do you guys think? Do you think, how many people? Yeah, thank you, Eric. So anyways, what do you think? Do you think that we've heard so many things? Well, why couldn't the Watchtower just tell us why Anthony Morris, Tony Morris, why couldn't they just tell us why he's no longer one of the governing body members? Why do they have to keep this so secretive? It's driving people nuts. Go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead, 978. I believe it's Dick.
Yep. What I believe is that they're hoping they can cover it up, but they're probably saying we probably can't, especially if you got Rick Ferrin on the hunt. So we better start sending out some videos or some special needs things, for the congregations, and say, watch out for the drinking too much alcohol, because one of our governing body members is facing DWI charges, something like that. I'm sure they would love to cover it up, but I think they're letting Tony go so that if it does come out, they won't have as much egg on their face as they should have. Thanks, Rick.
Well, see, here's what happens, Dick, and for the audience listening in. You know how conspiracy stories start? Do you know how rumors start? They start when you don't get the truth. If the Watchtower just came out and told us all the truth, and don't you think the Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe not the ex-witnesses, have a right to know, but at least Jehovah's Witnesses, rank and file, they have a right to know. Why is it Tony Morris is no longer a governing body member? Now stop and think about this. If all of a sudden President Biden, just stop and think about it. If tomorrow you heard on the news President Biden is no longer the president of the United States. So what are you going to do? You're going to go and just make your coffee and cook your eggs and not think about it? I mean, everyone's going to be thinking the first thing on their mind is going to be, well, geez, why? Well, what happened to President Biden? Why isn't he the president anymore? I mean, that's human nature. You would think about that. I mean, don't they think Jehovah's Witnesses rank and file are wondering, considering, questioning? What happened to Tony? Where's Tony? I mean, get real with this. So they have a right. The Jehovah's Witness rank and file has a right to know what happened to Tony Morris. Now, the ex-witnesses, not so much. We don't really have that right. I mean, we are the agents of Satan, the devil, right? But still, I mean, the witnesses should have a right, but the Watchtower is even covering that up. So what happens? What happens when you cover these things up? Rumors start. Conspiracy theories start because you're not getting the truth. So we've heard everything here on the 6 screens from, Tony Morris being in an accident and being in an infirmary, hospital, if you would, at the Watchtower. We've heard that Tony was sick and stepped down because he couldn't handle the responsibilities anymore. We heard that Tony wanted to move on and do things that he wanted to do all of his life and be able to be with his family. We heard that. We also heard that Tony Morris may have been involved in the Pennsylvania investigation into the Jehovah's Witness sex child abuse. So, so all of these rumors start. So how do they start? They start because the Watchtower is not telling people the truth. That's how things start. So that's why I even wanted to have this on here tonight, because I don't see, I look at jw.org every week. I'm glad you guys don't do it because it make you sick. But I look at it and I try to go through it, and I see that 2 articles on alcohol. That's not usually the case. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, it's a good assumption you got there. I remember those special needs talks, and you always looked over at the couple that were quiet, and you knew they were talking about them. But I was going to tell you, my uncle was the one who said that he got in an accident, 2 uncles, and they've been in there a long time. But somebody responded to it on YouTube and said, "Hey, Dan and Angela, goat-like personality explains it and shows pictures of Tony and his accident, and that he was accused of drinking but not charged with it. And after the accident, it is when he was gone. Let's say, was not charged with it, with it. And after that accident is when he was gone." And then it says, "Tune in to goat-like personality." I've never heard that. If anybody has, they say there's pictures there, the accident, and that he was accused but not charged. So again, it's speculation, but somebody did write that in the YouTube channel. And Angela wants to say something real quick.
Yeah, but I was at the Zoom funeral of Dan's brother, and his high forever been an elder brother. Dan said, what happened to Tony Morris? And then he said, he got in an accident, Dan, and it's in the infirmary. And he was absolutely adamant about it. And his uncle Neil validated it. In fact, everybody, how many people are on there? All witnesses, 20-some people, nobody argued it. So I think it's absolutely positively the truth.
Probably to do with alcohol, but they won't say nothing. But they didn't hesitate to say he was in an accident. I was really surprised. I was blown away. It was kind of a joke to me. Hey, what happened to Tony, your governing body? Oh, he was in a bad accident. And so goat-like personality, if anybody knows where that is online, go there. There's apparently pictures of the accident and all that stuff. So anyway, that's what I was trying to find last week, Rick. But the comment I was trying to find, because somebody said there were pictures. And that's it, Rick. Are you there?
All right, Dan.
Hey, Dan, I heard you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead. Talk with Dan. I just had to go take care of something. I heard something out in the other room. I wanted to go check and see what's going on. So go ahead, Eric. Take it over. Yep.
Oh, all right. I didn't really have anything to say, but I was just letting them know that I was here with them. But it's crazy what's going on and what's been talked about tonight. The organization has changed quite a bit, hasn't it? From when we were in it. I don't know why we ever felt like we were safe out in service. Not to backpedal a little bit, but where I grew up in Rhode Island, there was a lot of poor neighborhoods and the dangerous neighborhoods, and you wouldn't want to be knocking on their door for sure. I mean, even where I lived, we had a car one time. My wife woke up at 2 a.m. and we were living in a bad neighborhood, and she said, "Eric, wake up!" And our car was on fire, or not our car. I'm sorry, a car was on fire that they parked right in front of our house. And we called the fire department and they put it out. We've heard shots fired. You don't want to go preaching. Does anyone want to go preaching in a neighborhood like that? Does that sound nice? You still there, Rick? Looks like he's got some technical difficulties, huh?
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
Turkey. Yeah, Dick Boogie here. I think there's probably a little.
Hey,
how we doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you backpedaled a little bit. I just wanted to clear up something, or maybe rephrase it. The Watchtower will have you believe that if you go out in the field service, you have absolutely nothing to worry about because the angels are directing it. Jehovah's Spirit's there, and you have nothing to worry about. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie. And it's also a bold-faced lie that they did win the right to preach, but not to knock on anybody's door. And a lot of people have these signs up that says no soliciting, the Watchtower will tell you your elders will tell you from the platform, you are not soliciting. You're doing the footstep follower of Jesus Christ. You got to look at it for a minute. The footstep follower of Jesus Christ. Can you imagine Jesus Christ and the 12 apostles meeting for field service, and Jesus going, well, you go house over house, and you go the next street over and next block over, and don't forget to write down the house number of all that's not how Jesus did it.
Plus, think about how far they would have to travel because society is different back then than today. People were spread over a little bit more.
Well, absolutely. And the mores were so different. But Jesus, he went to the temple and he preached there. He went to the marketplace. He preached there. He didn't go door to door, but he did do. If he was invited for a meal, him and the apostles. Sure, they preached at the house that they had the meal in, or if they slept in. But the Watchtower will have you believe you are a footstep follower of Jesus Christ. And that simply is not true. Just like Jehovah's Witnesses aren't solicitors. Yes, they are. You're soliciting a new form of life. You are soliciting all new mores and standards in your life. And also, subsequent to all that, when you become a Jehovah's Witness, you are expected, they don't call it tithing, but expecting to finance your Kingdom Hall and go to quick days and all that stuff.
Yep.
So
it's solicitation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a solicitation.
Well, it is solicitation. And really, we used to say that too, Dick, as you said earlier. Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't look at it as soliciting, but that's the very definition of soliciting. Because they would say that, well, we're not soliciting because we're not selling anything. That's the reference they would make. Go ahead. What would you like to say, Dan?
Hey, Rick, I was going to tell you, go like Personality YouTube. There is a video of Tony Morris of his car. I just saw it's the top video. You might want to pull it up and play it. But it's got like a sheriff talking or something. saying Tony Morris, head of governing body, something like that. I just watched a few minutes of it, but goat-like personality. Go to YouTube. I just went there because that's where somebody told me to look, and they're showing a picture of his car. You know, again, I hope it's not a fake video, but it's a video talking about Tony, and somebody's talking. It's worth a look.
All right. Has anyone heard about that video at all? Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
This is Sharon in North Carolina. I was just thinking about this thing with Tony Morris. He was in that liquor store 3 years ago, and you know what? Monitors all these videos. So just imagine within the past 3 years, how many people may have been disfellowshipped for being an alcoholic. I think maybe they're not saying anything because of the backlash they will get for destroying families for people being disfellowshipped for that offense. So maybe that could be why they won't say anything about his drinking.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We just don't know, Sharon. You know, it's just we're only going on, you know, things we're hearing. The Watchtower is not being too clear about things. You know,
right? And the after effects put out before.
Excuse me 1 second. Just excuse me, Sharon. I'm sorry. I was just putting up a video clip.
That's okay.
I was just putting up a video clip here. We're gonna get the clip up with goat-like personality. We're gonna try to look into this and see exactly what goat-like personality. He's quite a guy. He's out of Norway, so let's see what he's saying. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Rick.
Well, thank you. Always good to hear from you, Sharon. Don't you be a stranger. I always love to hear from you. Thank you.
Oh, definitely not.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Always good to hear from Sharon. So let's see now. We do have this up. We have the Anthony Morris of Jehovah's Witnesses, not arrested and not guilty. That's the name of the video. So that's goat-like personality. So let's see if we can't get that video up here. And I'd like to show it to the audience. I haven't seen it, but let's share it right now. Let's at least share the screen. See if we can't get that up here. Goat-like personality. Let's see where it is here. Just looking to see it. Just have to get a few things together here. Anthony Morris, Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay. So it's right here. Well, let's play a little portion of it here and see if I'll have to it's like 8 minutes long, but I'll kind of skim through it and see what's being said here. But you've been listening. If you're on 6 Screens, a radio network, you'll hear it. If you're on the 6 Screens video suite, you'll hear it. So let's play it right now. Let's see what's being said here. I haven't heard this. So let's do it right now.
A report indicates that someone has been charged with a crime or that he's being investigated. It doesn't mean he's guilty. Satan is behind the twisted teachings of apostates. He's the father of the lie.
Goat-like County Sheriff Department recently released an audio transcript from the interrogation of a former supreme leader of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Mr. Anthony Morris is allegedly suspected for driving under the influence, but is not under arrest due to lack of evidence. Goat-like County Sheriff Department are notorious for lies, half-truth, and deceit. Due to the graphic nature of some images, pillow compression is advised.
The wheels and their structure appeared to glow like chrysolite, and the 4 of them looked alike. Their appearance and structure looked as though a wheel were within a wheel. Various governments will challenge our chariot. They may pressure us to change the wheels and their structure, but we're certainly not going to do that. We must always be ready to adapt when Jehovah's chariot moves, quickly resuming, quickly suspended. When they moved, they could.
I'm just going to stop right there. I'm going to go back and look at that picture. That I don't know if that's well, Tony was driving an older Cadillac, but the picture here,
the wheels and their structure,
that doesn't appear to be an older Cadillac. So I'm not, but he could have had another car. I'm not saying that Tony only had one car, but that is not an older Cadillac 4-door sedan that Tony drove to the liquor store. The same color. It is the same color. So, but again, I can't say that, maybe Tony had more than one car. So let's continue on. Let's see what goat-like personality has to say. So let's continue on.
Appeared to glow like chrysolite, and the four of them looked alike. Their appearance and structure looked as though a wheel were within a wheel. Various governments will challenge our chariot. They may pressure us to change the wheels and their structure, but we're certainly not going to do that. We must always be ready to adapt when Jehovah's chariot moves, quickly resuming, quickly suspended. When they moved, they could go in any of the four directions without turning as they went. Efforts are being made to address this issue. Jehovah's celestial chariot moves swiftly like lightning.
Well, they have, but just for those listening in, I don't want you to get too confused on this, but what it is they're showing a picture of a late model vehicle. It was the same color vehicle that Tony Morris was in when he visited the liquor store. It does not look like the front end is quite damaged, but it does not look like a Cadillac four-door sedan, an older model Cadillac. It does not look like that. So they have Tony Morris just talking in the background, some of the clips from jw.org. So let's see if we can't get to the root of this. This is the first time I saw the video. Dan Clark is the one that wanted me to get in and listen to it. So let's just play a little bit more and see if we can get to the root of what's going on in this video.
And you will be hated by all people on account of Jehovah's celestial chariot. May we all continue to adapt, but also by staying up to date with our spiritual feeding program.
And this is a sneaky one. The naive person believes every word. They believe the slander.
I'm not really sure where they're going with this. I'm going to fast forward here a little bit and see really.
He has kind of a reputation for that. But
let's listen to goat-like personality. He's a former Jehovah's Witness from Norway. Let's listen in on YouTube, see what he has to say.
Father does.
The problem with evil apostates are that they are exactly like Jehovah's Witnesses. They gossip. They gossip a lot. So when Anthony Morris was kicked out of the governing body, everyone asked me to make a video, and everyone assumed that it has something to do with him having a drinking problem, because if it's true or not, he has kind of a reputation for that. But I think the most important thing is the two-third rule that Raymond Franz spoke about, because how many governing bodies have 10? They are receiving white blood.
Okay, what we're getting here, I am getting text coming in here, and I haven't seen the whole video, but people are saying it's a satire. It's kind of a satire, a little funny video, so to speak, on Tony Morris, even though it's not true, evidently. It's a satire. I mean, that's what a satire is, making fun of a given situation. So I haven't viewed the whole video here, but I don't know if he says at the end of it or not, but from what I'm getting from people writing
with photo vibrance,
that it is a satire. So I'm going to stop it there. So, I'm not really saying that this is, I can't really report this as being true. I'll have to get in there, and check it out. But it's interesting. I mean, this could have been the case, but does anyone else have any information? Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
I agree, Rick. Yeah, because like I said, somebody sent me a comment and said there was a picture, but I agree. It was a newer car that was messed up. The only thing that got me was I do believe he was in an accident based on what my brother said, and he is in the infirmary. So it was pretty bad. So when I saw that car, I was like, wow, that's a bad enough accident to put somebody away for a while. So again, we don't know exactly, but I'm sure he was in an accident. And I would bet, if I had to bet, I would say it was alcohol. But whether it was that car and that picture and that little spoof the guy did, I don't know. Angela wants to say something.
Yeah, because I was saying, I think maybe I might have not been heard because it seemed like we got dropped, but that Dan at the funeral with his brother, that we heard his brother say, who was an elder, been an elder forever, never, that, yeah, Dan, he was in an accident. And then his uncle agreed, and who's been forever an elder as well. And then all the relatives, all who were witnesses, all didn't say anything. So they were Nobody had one single thing more to say. They all heard it. So I think that's pretty confirmation. If I were,
yeah, the accident, but how it what all the details we don't know.
Well, I'm going to go with you guys. I'm going to put my chips on the table with that. I really believe that was the issue. I really believe it was the issue. We still can't prove it, but you heard it from the witnesses at the funeral you went to, Dan, and also, I mean,
Yep, in Zoom.
and
They
also,
looked me right in the eye.
and it would also,
They looked me right in the eye.
yeah, it would also be reason for the Watchtower not to really bring it up and talk about it. Really, it doesn't
Good
make
point, Rick. Because if he was in an accident, why not just say, our brother Tony was in a bad accident and he's going to need to take a sabbatical, but they didn't say that. So, sometimes what they don't say tells you what they're saying. You know what I mean? So we just have to speculate that it was something like that,
Well, we're going to narrow it down. I'm going to narrow it down to two things. I'm leaning more in your direction. We're going to narrow it down here to two things. It was either an accident he was involved with because of his drinking, or he's involved in the up and coming subpoenas and investigation into the witnesses in Pennsylvania. One of those two.
Yep.
So, but I'm going to go. I'm going to go with you guys on this one, because I believe that someone knew he drank a lot. I mean, I don't know if he did or not, but I'm just speculating here. But someone perhaps knew that and knew he got in a car crash, and that was all covered up. No, well, I'll go with you guys. Thank you, Dan, for bringing that up. Yeah.
It'll reveal itself. Everything comes to the light in time, right?
Yeah. So, the thing is, what always amazes me, and, the term, when I first got out of the Watchtower, I learned the term esoteric. I had no idea what that word meant until I got out. Watchtower is an esoteric organization. By definition, secretive. They don't explain things to people. They hide a lot of things. They expect people just to believe on blind faith. But, this is the year 2023. This is not 2000. This is not 1966. This is a different year. People, friends, you can't hide things forever. And the real truth is going to come out. The real truth is going to come out. So only time will tell. So what do you guys think? I mean, let's narrow it down here. Was Tony in a car crash because of drunk driving? The Watchtower doesn't want to bring it up and bring all kinds of retribution to it. Or was Tony going to be indicted in the Pennsylvania investigation into child sex abuse? What do you guys think? Dick, what do you think?
My guess, both.
You're going with both.
Child abuse and drinking. I think he's the pedophile thing in Pennsylvania and DWI. That's what I think.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing you're not on the grand jury. This guy would be behind bars already. I mean, you don't have a personal vendetta. I don't think we could use you as a juror. You don't have a personal vendetta against Tony, do you? Jeez.
I hate this guy.
Yeah, jeez, I'll tell you.
No, I don't. I just feel sorry for him.
Yeah. Well, no, Dick, we're learning things here. As we go downstream, they're not going to be able to get away from all of this. I don't care. The Watchtower is being very, very sly, very sneaky. They're doing everything they possibly can to avoid telling the truth on anything. These guys have been constant liars for as long as I've known the Watchtower. Their second name really is lie. Watchtower lie. That's what they do. They tell lies all the time, and they seem to get away with it. Well, you're on 6 screens, JW World News, the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But I have to tell you the truth, we talk about it every Saturday night and every other Sunday right here on our little niche network. And friends, did you know we have about 17 different programs running here right now on the 6 screens? It's not just JW World News that you're listening into right now. We have many, many former Jehovah's Witnesses that are willing to take their time and effort, and we want to salute them all and thank them all for coming on and hosting programs here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork, and it's reaching out. We have a number of programs left tonight. Coming up after this program, we have Larry John Wayne coming in from Southern California, and he's going to talk about how to be a superhuman being. You got to listen to the program. He makes things a little laughable, at the same time sensible. So he's coming in at 11 o'clock tonight, and then after that, around 2 a.m. in the morning, we talk about Apostle Babe, your favorite apostate. She'll be on at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, and she has a program, and you got to listen into that. If you can't sleep tonight, listen into Apostle Babe. You can't believe how the ex-witnesses let their hair down when they talk in the wee hours of the morning, and it's just amazing what people talk about at that time of night. So by all means, join Apostle Babe and listen to Larry John Wayne on this program after this program's over. So anyways, let's take a look and see what's going on. Yes.
So when the witnesses go door to door, is that a part of that esoteric law of opposites, how they have everything the opposite, no cross, no Holy Ghost, no Trinity? Does it bake into the same cookie? It seems to be a divination cult.
Well,
if the tarot card is what do you think about that?
Well, I think that I don't think they base it on occultism. I mean, even though that's probably what they're doing, but of course they believe that you have to go door to door, even though the scriptures in Acts 20:20 says that you don't go door to door. But they somehow think that they're the only ones that are spreading the message of the gospel by going door to door. So, but as far as
the Mormons go door to door, and the Nation of Islam goes door to door, it's like the Masonry construct is to send you house to house in contradiction to what's written in the Bible, and their whole doctrine is based on that contradictory philosophy that if you're an occultist, you have to do everything in reverse. And they seem to be tricked into that construct. And that seems to be not just the witnesses. If you're a Catholic, you're doing upside down cross over yourself. If you do the Catholic cross over yourself, just check yourself out. You'll see you're doing it upside down. It's also Masonry, but it comes from Simon Magus in the scriptures, Acts chapter 8, which is Gnosticism. It has a source, Samaria, going back through the Old Testament. You have to see it in reverse. Samaria was the leaven that leavened the lump. So it's about the spread of occultism in opposition to Christianity. We know that Jesus went to Samaria and he had friction there. They thought he was just another magician. They didn't see his powers as anything special. So what these charlatans are doing is using the witchcraft to impersonate the works of God, which we know that Satan, transforming himself into a masquerading angel of light, has workers who also do the same. And that's what Freemasonry is facilitating. Even in America, if you look at the street grid of Washington, D.C., there's a documentary called D.C. Street Sorcery. And these are all based on the planets, because Israel was given over to the worship of the host of heaven. So he made the master occultist, and that's how they control the world. Kanye went bananas over this fact.
Well,
but God in Isaiah 45:7 says, I make peace and I create evil. Okay?
Well,
I function on both sides.
Well, I got what you're saying, but 99% of the audience that's listening in here tonight, they're going, what in goodness name's sake is this man talking about? Now, I'm not saying that.
There's a rewind
Well,
button
yeah,
on the screen here.
I understand what you're saying, but I've invited you before to come on Sunday and have your program.
I got to get it together.
That is the place where we would discuss this. Other than this, on a Saturday night, you have these people going, when they leave the Watchtower, they don't want to. None of this stuff is going to connect with them. You got to get in with people that this will
As designed.
Yeah, you have to, and really, I respect what you're saying. I'm certainly not in any way disputing it, but I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying what you're doing is you're really preaching to the wrong audience. This audience is not going to buy all of this. They don't want to buy anything about masonry. They don't want to buy anything about occultism. These people have been so damaged spiritually, they want nothing to do with God. And I have to tell you something, and you're a good caller, and geez, a lot of people say to me, Rick, get that guy on a program. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. These people are so damaged spiritually. They don't want to believe in God. Now, and I'll tell you what, there's two camps. I've mentioned this before. There are two camps of people leaving the Watchtower. There's the camp of Christian camp or believer camp, and then there's a non-believer or atheist, or call them what you want, camp. I'm not picking on them, but I'm saying there's two camps. The only camp that is going to identify with masonry in the Watchtower and occultism is the Christian camp. Because if you're a non-Christian, you're not going to believe in the devil. You're not going to believe in the occult. You're not going to believe in masonry. That is like, that's crazy stuff. But to a Christian, they believe this. So the two camps. So you got to come on and preach to the choir on Sunday. You got to do that. Yep.
I got you. I understand. But if these people watch that documentary, DC Street Sorcery, I think it's on BitChute or Odyssey, they will see in the street grid of Washington, there are pentagrams and all these planetary references. It goes into the scriptures, and that if I can't prove Jesus Christ, then I'll prove Satan worship. If I can prove Satan exists, then I'll just let that other stuff work itself out within you. You know, I can't give you faith. God gives you faith. You know, but I'll make it as common sense as possible. I'll send you an email. And
we'll get you one.
Bless you, sir.
Not only that, I'm going to tell you another thing.
Understand,
I'm going to tell you another thing. You have an unbelievable voice. Now, I'm not patronizing you, but I'm telling you, you have a gift from God. Your voice it's got a lot of what you would call resonance. It's very good voice. That voice.
You spook me out when you say that.
Well, I'm not trying to spook you out, but I'm telling you, you could do voiceovers. You've got a very good voice. I'm thinking of even having you do some voiceovers for the 6 screens. Yeah, really, you're very, very good. So I want you to know that I'm not.
I'll write you an email.
All right.
It's very dense what I'm working on.
All right.
And I know that it goes into, but you know about the tarot cards and Kabbalah. You've been in there.
I got it
so
all.
As long as you know. I'm okay.
I got it all.
It's just,
and we love you. We love you. It's just you know what I say here on Saturday night. It's unreal. You're a good man. Don't you ever change. Write me the email. jwworldnews@gmail.com. Thank you. So there you go. I mean, good night. You know, we have friends. What we've done here at the 6 Screens is when we first started 17 years ago. Well, what I tried to do here is give everybody a voice. And when I first started this program 17 years ago, I came on preaching and being the good Christian man. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. The audience went in the opposite direction. So on Saturday nights, I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not. And I'm not going to be in your face, born again Christian. I'm not. But if you're looking for theological understanding, you're trying to come to grips with the scriptures, Sunday, 6 Screens, that's what you want to do. We start tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So give it a shot. We got a man we got 2 men, the Christian apologists, are coming on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And they're going to be talking about the Tower of Babel. And they're going to be giving you some insight that's right up to date. And I got some things to share with you, too, concerning Chat GPT and the Tower of Babel. Check that out. Punch it into Chat GPT, Tower of Babel. You'll see what comes up. It's amazing. So they're coming on tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I think you'll find it very, very fascinating on the 6 Screens, Sunday theological discussions. All right. So who do we got on with us now? Yes.
Hi, Rick. It's Constance.
Yes.
I was going to say, I always love when that brother comes on. I know he was never a JW, but he's still one of our brothers. You know, the guy goes deep, but he really knows what he's talking about, Rick.
Yeah.
And you know it too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wish I knew his name because, he does have that broadcasting voice, Rick. He really does, And anyway, I was going to say, I hope tomorrow he tunes in to Anne Marie's, testimony with Mark Ryland. And Mark Ryland had been a JW. He's an ex-JW, but he was a warlock. And Mark is one of our very dear friends of Rich's and mine. And I think what's so fascinating is what you had shared with me before, Rick, is that the majority. I thought the majority of people when they leave the organization, I thought maybe 20%, 30% got into the occult. And if I'm not mistaken, Rick, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you had said it was more like 80%. Am I correct on that?
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe not 80% getting into the occult, but what I do find for people who leave the Watchtower, only 20% want to develop spirituality when they leave. The 80% go in a worldly direction. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're close friends with Mark Ryland, who's coming on tomorrow. And we were trying to really encourage him to come on because there's so many people, a lot of young people are very much interested in the occult. Now, I'm not encouraging that. I'm just making a statement here. And Mark was very heavily involved in it, and he was a warlock. And I've spoken to him about, John Ramirez and so forth. So all I'm trying to say is that I think Mark Ryland's testimony tomorrow will be very, very beneficial to a lot of people. And this brother, I'd really hope that this brother that just called in, he's got the $1 million, broadcaster voice, Rick. I hope he listens in tomorrow too, and really chimes in with Mark, because I think it would be great, for a lot of people to just really open up their eyes, and they can learn from Mark, but they can certainly learn from this brother. So it's all good, Rick.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, if I had a voice like that man, I'd be doing my broadcast tonight from the Boston Yacht Club, sipping on a couple of pina coladas. I mean, he's really good. Really.
Well, he's mysterious, Rick. He's got that voice, and he comes on. I just said to Rich, there he is. That's the brother with the voice, I mean, we don't know his name. He's mysterious, but there he is. There's that $1 million voice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, very good. Well, yeah. So anyways, just if you're listening in now, we do have our program tomorrow. Anne Marie comes on. Ex-Jehovah's Witnesses share their Christian testimony. Don't get nervous because I use the word Christian. All right. But if that interests you, this man left the Watchtower. He became a warlock. He got involved in occultism. He's coming on tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. All right, let's see what we got going here. Yes, go ahead. You're on with us.
Mr. Farron, just a quick thought. This is Stephan again. The gentleman asked about why the witnesses go out from the door to door. It's not so much esoteric. If you recall, Barbara Anderson mentioned as a part of that 5013C charity, whatever the title is, they have to provide evidence of charitable activity. And as you know, Watchtower does nothing charitable. And so the only thing that they do that is charitable is the going out knocking on door to door. So that's the reason why. You could be on your deathbed, and if you've got 30 seconds that you spend in the ministry, they want that, and that gets funneled up to Watchtower so that Watchtower can go to the government with their hands out. The second thing is that the so-called ministry is also busy work. So it's to keep the witnesses so busy, ripping and running, going to service, going to meetings, and that's a cult tactic so that people never have an opportunity to sit down and really analyze what they're doing and why they're doing it. So those are the reasons why the ministry is pushed so hard.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, Stephan. That's good information. Thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate it. Yes, go ahead. We've got 308 on us. Go ahead, 308.
This is Debbie.
Yes, Debbie.
I just wanted to say something about something you said earlier in the show.
Yeah.
You said what would be the first thing we thought if we wake up tomorrow morning and President Biden was no longer the president?
Yeah.
I know we're not supposed to take political views, but the first thing I would think is, glory, hallelujah. I'm so glad he's not the president anymore.
Well,
that's just my personal opinion.
Well, that's your personal opinion. I mean, everyone might not be in agreement with it, but you have a right to at least voice your opinion. Why would you like to have President Biden gone?
Well, just look at the condition our country's in, and he has spent more money. He spent 5 times more money on Ukraine than he did on people on Social Security. Yet now we've got the debt ceiling, and the government's running out of money. Well, if he hadn't sent every dollar, taxpayers have paid, and on taxes to Ukraine. And it's not that I don't feel bad for people in Ukraine, I do. But we have a huge homeless population and people that need help and elderly people that are on Social Security that are facing, hunger. Just, a few little things. Plus the way he withdrew the people from Afghanistan and left all the equipment there, and he gave them a list of all the people that had helped the Americans, and they were able to know who all the military was that had been left behind, and then they all got pretty much slaughtered.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just blame a whole lot on him. I just think he's the worst president we've ever had.
Well, in fact, that's your opinion. Now, I can't really throw too much into the conversation here, but what I do, this is the Freedom Network. Everyone has a right to come on and say what they want. So, you gave your thoughts on it. So I would ask at this point if anyone would love to come in and, kind of rebut your thoughts on that. Would someone like to come on and say something about it? You're on 6 screens. I mean, we want to hear both sides of the story. We just don't want to give you the one side. So you're on with us. Go ahead. What would you like to say? Did someone want to come on and say how President Biden is helping this country? Do we hear anything about that? Is there crickets out there? I mean, is someone going to speak up and talk? Here's your opportunity to tell us how great you think it's been in this country. We let Debbie speak her mind, so it's only fair I let others speak their minds too. All right, so
yeah, Rick, just a thought. Don't want to hog the whole night, but if he can help Ukraine, with their border problems they're having with Russia, why can't he help the people in Arizona and Texas and California with the problems they're having at their border? And the other thing I would think of is, I think that Hunter Biden, they should give him a Nobel Peace Prize because he's such a wonderful guy. And that's into my madness.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to, what I do here, it sometimes puts me in a position. I let the people speak. I let the people come in from both sides of the spectrum, and it's always open. I'm always willing to listen to what people have to say. So I want people to know that opportunity exists. It's not all one-sided. Sometimes we're accused of being one-sided, but I think everyone should have a voice, but that voice is available to anyone that wants to speak up. Well, anyways, we're doing a lot here tonight. We're going to be on a little bit longer here. We're going to go for another hour or so because we did have a guest come on tonight. She was going to come on. She couldn't. She kind of got sick here at the last minute, so we couldn't get her on. But she'll be on with us again in a month. We're that far out booking people, so she can't come on for another month. But she's coming in from Oregon. She wants to tell her story and how she left the witnesses. And so she can't come on for another month.
but she's coming in from Oregon. She wants to tell her story and how she left the witness.
Okay, we got someone. You're listening. What you're doing? We have. It looks like 213. You got YouTube on in the background. You got to shut you got to shut YouTube off. If you come on and you unmute your phone and YouTube's on, we're gonna get some background noise, some echoing. So, anyways, my goodness, we have got quite a night going here tonight. Well, let's move to the other. Does someone want to say something before we move to the next story? We have 661. We have 213. Did you want to say?
Hello, Mr. Farron?
Yes, go ahead. We have looks like Jerry. Yes, go ahead.
Yep, this is JP from California. I was going to say I have an idea because I was about how Tony Morris just disappeared, and we know that Watchtower is just going to cover it up and never let us know what happened. But I was listening to live Ryan Koltastic, and I just made like a comment on there, and I was saying what a good idea it would be if maybe everybody just mailed a thinking of you card to Anthony Morris, to headquarters. And maybe if everybody could do it and possibly do it like all on the same day, I was thinking maybe like May the 1st, like May Day. Just go to your local drugstore or Hallmark store, get a thinking of you card and mail it to headquarters. And that'll just be like letting them know that we haven't forgot that Tony Morris is gone. And that they're not going to hide it.
Well, that's interesting, Jerry. You brought that up. I mean, you got me thinking. You got my mind kind of circling around what you're thinking here. All we could send a get well card to Tony. You know, if they're saying he's sick and in the infirmary and he's not doing well, and that's the rumor that's being spread around, maybe we could just all send a get well card, and they might get the point. Okay, Pixie, you're on with us.
Either get well or thinking of you, but you could, I mean, just imagine if the headquarters in the mailroom, they just got, hundreds, if not thousands of cards the same day. Just people at XJW asking about Tony Morris.
Yeah, well, I
think that would fail.
Well, you're right, Jerry. You're right. Well, thank you, Jerry. Always good to hear from you. Thank you. Don't be a stranger. I'll come back and see you soon. Pixie, you're on with us. Go ahead.
Well, I am glad they did the little PSA there on drinking and driving and not to drink and drive. That's something they should have done a long time ago. And there is a problem in that organization along that line when they, they say don't smoke a cigarette, but there's a real alcohol problem there. The gentleman that called in, this topsy-turvy thing has been troubling me for the last 3 weeks. The hottest book on Amazon right now is called 180. And we're seeing a lot of things in reverse. We're seeing all kinds of strange propaganda. We got money issues that I haven't even figured out yet, and I've written financial stories. So the banking and money issues are crazy right now, and I don't even want to comment on it, except everybody try to learn as much as you can and talk to your people, because I don't understand what's going on with it. And then on the lighter side, we've got the coronation coming up, which is going to be very interesting TV. But 61% of the British people said they're not in favor of how much it costs. So we're living in a crazy time. And a lot of it is the reverse of what it should be.
I like the term crazy time in reverse of what it should be. You're absolutely right. It's just unbelievable, Pixie, what we're seeing happening today. But so what in your world? I mean, I know you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I know you follow academia. I know you do a lot of reading. I know that you are somewhat astute to what is happening in the world. Well, what would you say is the biggest issue that our country is faced with right now?
Well, again, the economy is going to be the next thing. We've had the shortages, the economy, and as the gentleman mentioned about esoteric and occult things, this best-selling book that I haven't read yet on Amazon is called 180, and it's talking in very clear terms about how everything we're being told, a lot of times it's exactly the opposite. They're not even hiding any esoteric icing on it now. They're just presenting it as if it's true, but it's really the reverse. So he had some very valid points there. Again, I'd love to interview him for 1 hour on a Sunday special. But the banks, I'm not understanding it. It's worldwide. They want to put in a different digital currency. I really haven't gotten my facts around that yet.
Well, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around it. You know, I enjoy business news. I watch it, CNBC, Fox Business. And of course, they've been talking about a change coming to digital currency. I don't know how, fast that's going to take place. But obviously, when they start giving little suggestions about it, you have to start getting on the ball and think about it. Now, I don't believe that that everyone's going to lose their dollars as it is overnight. I mean, there's so many facets to this whole thing. I mean, there's so many businesses, little business, big business, middle-sized business. But, they're kind of telling you before they tell you that something is
That's
on.
what these gentlemen do.
Yeah.
And they've already changed the phone currency in places like Africa that most of us don't look at these other nations. And then it's going to be very interesting because Britain is going to have this new king, but is he going to be part of the Great Reset too in some way? I don't know yet. But that's going to be interesting TV, and that's coming up this coming week.
Well, I have to tell you, one of the strangest things, because I do watch the business news, like I say, I enjoy that. I'm in business for myself, so I love watching and see what's going on Main Street as well as Wall Street. But there was a man that came on, well, I'll tell you what, it's probably in the last year, but this stuck with me. I'll never forget what he said. He was saying, people are investing in stock and they're investing in gold and silver, but he says, I think you should invest in a can of string beans. I said, what?
Absolutely.
What the heck is he talking about? But he says, a can of beans, a can of corn could be worth its weight in gold. Now, he was saying if we ever do, and, I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight, but if we ever do see food shortage, he says you can have all the gold in the world. But he says, would you eat a bar of gold or would you eat a can of string beans,
Well, that's it. Well, my peaches have already doubled, so all my cans of peaches are going up daily. I just wanted to mention that and for everybody to look at some of these new topics because we are in a different world.
Well, you have it. You're right, Pixie. You're right on the ball, buddy. Thank you very much for calling in tonight. Thank you.
Take care.
All righty. Well, there you have it.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
To back Pixie up, I actually said that to people before, and they looked at me all cross-eyed that food would ever be like a money system, or it'd be more valuable than money. But yeah, if the economy ever does crash, that would be the most valuable thing because it gives you life. It sustains life. I've got quite a bit of canned food that I had saved up just in case something should ever happen. And I think it's funny that Jehovah's Witnesses tell you to get a 2-day go back. Like, what the hell is that going to do for you? Yeah, I got 6 months maybe if I ration it.
Well,
for 2 people.
Do you know what's in that go bag? The witnesses are constantly hawking.
A couple of prescription pills, probably a bottle of scotch, depending on who you are.
Well, this is
yeah. I think some food, enough food for like a day or two, right?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a go bag isn't a bad idea. They say put some, medicine in there, put your flashlight in there, put like a weight of some matches or something to start a fire with, put a couple of cans of Sterno in there. And they also say put one of these, small little, you've seen them, we use them as kids, little fishing. It's not a fishing rod, but it's like 2 wooden sticks that you wrap the fishing line around. They say keep that in your go bag. But I don't, Eric. I mean, you've been around a while. You're from New England. Up here people fish. I love fishing too. But I'm thinking Jehovah's Witnesses that they don't fish. They wouldn't even know how to put a worm on a hook. For the most part.
Yeah,
they don't.
Yeah.
So I mean,
except for the exceptions, because there was these guys that I grew up with that were hardcore fishermen, and they got jobs. They were witnesses, and they got jobs to where they could take Friday off and go fishing together.
Oh yeah, no, I can't imagine.
But it's only men. Like that's the exception to the rule. I'm not contradicting you or anything.
Well, those are real men, Eric. But I mean, are the real?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are the real?
Yeah, let's face it. The average Jehovah's Witness, or even just man today, a lot of guys don't want to change their own tires in their car.
Oh.
And if I'm not knocking people, if you don't want to, it's fine, no big deal. But
well, no, it's getting to be a mamsy-pamsy way of life, and the witnesses are even making it more mamsy-pamsy. And I would be willing to say that 90% of Jehovah's Witnesses that they wouldn't know how to fish. They wouldn't even they'd be afraid to put a worm on the hook, and then if they caught a fish, they'd be afraid to grab them and take them off the hook. I mean, serious. So that's
not me.
No, I say
I'm not a great fisherman, but I get the gist
Yeah.
of it.
Oh,
Did you ever do a cohogging in New England, in Boston? Where you throw the rock up in the air because you're a little older and you would know. And then when the rock comes down on the shoreline, the clams would spit.
Yeah, no, I never went clamming like that, but I certainly would love to.
My grandfather taught me that when I was a little child, and we would go in the bay in Rhode Island, and he'd do that. I know I'm getting off.
Well, yeah, but that's something, Eric, you must miss down there in Tennessee, because I mean, fried clams. How do you beat fried clams?
I won't even. I mean, I'll get them sometimes at the Little Necks, but they do them right. They get expressed over. But I miss just going and catch them myself, and crack a beer after you do it.
Well, you can't believe what seafood is going for up here now. Geez, you'd have to be a millionaire just to have it. Oh. Well, I took, Susan, I took her to the doctors the other day, the dentist, and I says, Susan, let's stop in. She loves haddock. She loves fried haddock. So I said, Susan, well, I got a business I do some business with up here. It's like a sub shop, haddock, fried food. So I said, let's go and see him. He's in New Hampshire. So I said, let's go in there and get a nice little fried haddock dinner for you. So we walked in, and so I said, I want to get 2 fried haddock dinners. So the woman looked at me and says, you don't want to get 2. I says, yeah, I want 2. I says, we're hungry. I says, my wife wants 1. I want 1. Well, no. She says, it's just too big. You won't be able to eat it. I says, well, we're hungry. I love haddock. I love French fries, coleslaw. She says, oh, yeah, we got all that. But trust me, she said, just take 1. I says, well, she says, because it's really big. I says, well, how big is it? She says, well, it's really big. I says, okay, I'll trust you. Just give me 1 then. I couldn't believe she said that. And then I says, I'll order a Coke and a bottle of water. So what do you think the bill came to for 1 haddock dinner, a bottle of water, and a Coke?
I'm guessing about $35 before tip.
$35. $35 in a sub shop. So I'm saying, geez, I'm glad I didn't order 2. That would have run me $70. But
was I right?
Yeah, you were right on the nose. It was
right?
it was $36.27 or something like that.
I was taking a guess to
Yeah,
standards because
but
I know how crazy everything is.
So I'm going, my God. I mean, that geez, what if you brought your family out, or just me and Susan? I mean, what if you brought your kids out? Go ahead. What do you guys want?
What a good waitress to save you from a $70 bill.
Oh, really? In fact, I didn't even ask what it was. I just figured, well, normally a haddock dinner, $15, $20, $35. I'm saying that's unbelievable, but that's what's going on. But a clams,
Rick. And to go along with Debbie's comment, like I know everyone can have their own opinion, but I mean, love him or hate him, Donald Trump, love him or hate him, our current President Biden. I mean, I'm seeing a difference with the way the country's being run. I'm frustrated at Joe Biden, like I'm frustrated with the governing body. I'm seeing a liar. I'm seeing a guy who's not doing the right thing, who's not running the country right. Even if Trump doesn't become, I don't care who becomes president next time, but just get this guy out of here.
Well,
I won't turn your show into too political, but it's the abuse of power. And it gets frustrating, and I'm frustrated with the governing body. It's like, can you just stop abusing us, everyone? Let's face it, on whether you're the left or the right, the government abuses,
Well, there's a lot of people right now that, I can look out my studio here, and what I look at, I judge the economy by the amount of cars driving through Starbucks. I can look out my window here in my studio, and I'm looking out there right now. I see a Starbucks over there. And you ought to see the people that drive through Starbucks during the day. I mean, I'm talking about from 6 o'clock in the morning on. There's not too many driving through there right now as I'm looking out. But these people are driving through there in beautiful SUVs, expensive Volvos, expensive Ford pickup trucks. It's unbelievable all day long. And they're paying $5-7 a cup of coffee. That's not going to last forever. It's not. And right now, everyone is kind of enjoying the checks they got. And, it's really adding to inflation. But, one of these days, I'm going to look out my little studio window, and there's going to be not a lot of cars going through Starbucks. People are going to say, geez, I'm not going to pay $5 for a cup of coffee. I can buy a whole not even a pound, but say 11 ounces of coffee for $5. So things are going to be changing soon, Eric. Things will be changing.
Oh,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
I was just thinking when Walmart starts putting the security devices on a package of beef, or I think they're even doing tissue paper now too. Yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah.
But thanks, Rick.
Well, there you go, Eric. Hey, listen, it was so nice to hear your wife on today. She came on and she had...
It was, wasn't it? She surprised me. That was great.
Oh, she has such a beautiful, soothing voice. You let her know that. Everyone loved her when she came on.
Oh.
So you let her know that she was a big hit here on the 6 screens today. Very big hit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you let her know
She does
that.
have a good voice. Thanks for the compliment.
Well, she really, really does. I was impressed with her voice, and she's very articulate. She's a wonderful woman, and you married a good girl there. I'll tell you that right now, Eric. A good girl. Yeah.
I did. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Have a good night, buddy.
All right. Good man. Thank you. Well, that's Eric down there in Tennessee, but he's from New England. He's from Rhode Island. So anyways, boy, I'll tell you what. So anyways, the big story, we got another hour to go here. So we're just kind of chatting along and enjoying ourselves here tonight. I'm enjoying myself. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. And we're having a good time here in the 6 screens tonight. But, there was, let me tell you something right off the bat. The Watchtower, their lifespan, they're on life support right now. Let's go with that. The Watchtower's dead. It just hasn't fallen over yet. I can't even fathom how many nations are coming against the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's numerous nations: Sweden, Belgium, the United Kingdom. We've got Russia, of course, has banned the witnesses. We've got Denmark. We've got Australia. All of these people know what the Jehovah's Witnesses are covering up. I mean, how long can the Watchtower think they can get away with all of this? But in Norway this week, I'm going to show you. I'm going to play a little clip here that I want you to see. There were 10 pages in the Saturday magazine. It's one of Norway's most read newspapers. A 10-page spread on the evils in the Watchtower. Would you like to see the video? Let me see if I can't get that up for us. I couldn't believe it. Let me just find the right clip here. And I want you to see this. It was in Norway, and I couldn't believe what I saw. Let me just see if this is the clip here. I'm not really sure why that's doing that. When you're doing a live program here, there's always something that goes on. Let me see if I can't get that clip up here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to do it, but let me just see what I got going here. We got a lot of things that I'm trying to do all at once. And when you're doing a live program, let's face it, I'll just be a little cautious here and see what's going on. Okay, I got it right here. So let me just do this. I'm going to share the video. This is a 10-page spread in one of the most read magazines in all of Norway, and it's all about how evil the Watchtower is. So let me just see if I can't get that up here and share it with you guys. So let me get this over here, share my screen, And okay, there we go right here. I'm going to play them. It doesn't really say too much. It's no audio, but you're going to see the spread. You're going to see the 10 pages. It's all in Norwegian, but you kind of get the gist of what's being said here or being talked about in the newspaper. So why don't we do this right now? Let's share this. And let me see if we can't get this up and playing. Okay, let's share it right now. There's a 10-page spread. It's showing all the pages. The person's turning the pages. This is the magazine, top magazine in Norway. Look at this. It's all about the Joe. See that man right there? He's reporting the witnesses for their shunning. And there he is right there. This man brought so much light to the Jehovah's Witness religion and what they do in hurting people when they shun them. 10 full pages with pictures on how bad the Jehovah's Witnesses are. So there you see it. Can you believe that? The world is catching up on these guys. It's unbelievable. And not just Norway, but all of these other countries as well. As we just said, all these countries are coming against the Watchtower. They all realize the Watchtower is doing so much to try to cover this all up. But boy, it's all being spoken about. Okay, so who wants to speak up? You're on with us. Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, Rick. Hi, how are you?
Hi.
It's Anna.
Yes, Anna. How you doing?
Hi. I was just talking about the shunning. I saw a interview with Riley from Jexit. He interviewed Joe and Fran, and I saw it a few days ago. It was a wonderful interview, and it was really heartbreaking. Between them, they have 8 children between them, shunning them. 8. Their parents, they raised those children, and so Fran and Joe have got 4, and Riley has 4 as well. And all of them are shunning their parents for speaking out about the Watchtower. So it just broke my heart listening to it.
Oh, that's terrible. My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it something what the Watchtower does, Annie? It's just unbelievable what goes on in that organization. So what's going on over there in the UK? You guys are really investigating the witnesses too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think there's quite a lot of, articles and things that have been written, books and all sorts of things. And, I just thought I'd mention that interview if anybody wants to. It's on Riley's channel. His channel is called Jexit 2020. And, he's British. Jexit Brexit. And he interviewed Joe and Fran. It's a really beautiful interview, but it's very, very sad. It made me feel really sad. And Joe and Fran are wonderful people. They're just using the pain that they have and reaching out to other people. They have a lot of young people whose parents are shunning them, and they're in touch with Joe and Fran are sort of substitute parents for these shunned children. And it was such a really lovely interview. I really recommend everyone watch it. Yeah.
Well, very good, Anna. I'm always so glad to hear from you, and I really appreciate you dialing in from the United Kingdom. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Rick.
Well,
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, bye.
all right. You have a good night now. Well, there you go. That's Anna from the United Kingdom. Boy, I'll tell you what, we got a lot of people that are coming into the 6 screens tonight. So anyways, 10 pages in the magazine in Norway, one of the most read magazines in the whole country. I want to just say this, that the activist, that man, I don't have his name, it's a Norwegian name, but the man that went forth and tattled, he went to the government and told the government how bad the Jehovah's Witnesses are and how he was being shunned. He got the attention of the Norwegian government, and now Norway is looking into taking away their charitable status because of this shunning policy. Good for you. And anyone that has activism in their heart and they can do something like that, see, this man made all the difference in the world. So that's a good thing. Well, I wanted to get into our top story tonight. And if you guys have been looking through the internet this week, you really have to realize that the biggest story this week is the charges against the Jehovah's Witnesses in handling sexual child abuse cases in Pennsylvania. That has been all over the news and all the news networks, NBC, CBS, ABC, United Press, International, Fox Local News has been covering it. It's just unbelievable the coverage that this story is getting concerning Jehovah's Witnesses in Pennsylvania, covering up child sexual abuse. This has been going on for years, and the Attorney General's office is not done with this yet. There's more indictments, there's more arrests that are coming this year. And I'm reading this right out of the newspaper from Pennsylvania, United Press, not United Press, but it's coming out of Associated Press worldwide, and it's dealing with some big. They're saying here, the Attorney General saying that there's more arrests coming, and I'm going to add this, friends. We have got something really big going on here. Someone big in the Watchtower organization is going to be getting arrested shortly. This is information that's been coming in here to the 6 screens. They're waiting for someone who is a pretty big shot in the Jehovah's Witnesses to get arrested shortly. Now, I don't know who this one could be, but I can't wait. Is it Tony Morris? Is it Cook? Who is it? Evidently, somebody is getting attacked in Pennsylvania, but no names coming forth yet, so only time will tell. So let's just keep listening into what's going on in Pennsylvania, because we're going to hear some big news coming out of there. So we have a Pennsylvania grand jury right now. They have accused 9 men with connections to the Jehovah's Witnesses of child sexual abuse in what many consider to be the nation's most comprehensive investigation yet into abuse in the Jehovah's Witness faith. So this is big, friends. This is not some little small-time story. This story has legs on it. Many newspapers are picking the story up. Now, something I found fascinating, up until this time, the grand jury, they haven't really made public everything they know about this 4-year investigation into the Jehovah's Witnesses. This hasn't really come out. A little bit is seeped out here or there. But from what I understand, this grand jury investigating the witnesses is going to really blow the gasket off this organization. A similar grand jury first looked into the sexual abuse in the Catholic Church back in 2018. And at first there wasn't too much going on, but then it blew it way out of proportion. And people all over Pennsylvania are now aware of what went on in the Catholic Church. The same thing is going to happen with Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, indeed, the Jehovah's Witnesses have a systematic cover-up of mishandling child molestation. And now it's starting to catch up with them. And according to the Attorney General, it's a woman. Her name is Michelle Henry. In a news conference in February, she announced these charges against these Jehovah's Witness men and said some of the defendants, even their faith communities, well, they actually joined the faith communities, she's saying, so they could prey on victims. Now, haven't we talked about that here on the 6 screens? There are actually perverted men, and women too, I suspect, but perverted men for the most part that actually join the Jehovah's Witnesses so they can have access to little children so they can sexually abuse them. How sick is that? So critics say the church elders have treated child sex abuse as a sin rather than a crime. Well, the critics are right. Yeah, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't look at it as a crime if someone rapes a little kid and messes their life up forever. Jehovah's Witnesses consider it a sin rather than a crime. I mean, come on, witnesses. Would you guys get with it? What is more heinous? What is more evil? What is more perverted than raping little children? So we have dozens of Jehovah's Witnesses. They have testified before this grand jury. It's a secret grand jury, too, by the way. The names have not been revealed who's on this grand jury. So dozens of Jehovah's Witnesses have testified before this grand jury in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, or provided information to the Attorney General's office. So this is not just one or two Jehovah's Witnesses coming forward and saying this happened. Dozens of Jehovah's Witnesses have testified that they were either molested or they knew that the Jehovah's Witness elders were covering this up. So this is just absolutely unbelievable. And this is, I'll tell you what, I'm just skimming through the newspaper here. This is the first time an investigation of Jehovah's Witnesses has been done on this scale in any United States state. This is big time. This is not just some little story buried in the background. This is front page news. And they're really realizing that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many witnesses that have been abused, and more of them are coming forward and saying these things. So I think this is good. I really do. I really think this is a wonderful thing that now all of a sudden, thank you, Pennsylvania, for coming forward and speaking about the abuse in the Watchtower. Now, you know what they're trying to do. There's a lawyer for the Watchtower. Let me tell you how they got this lawyer. The lawyer's name is Haverstick. He's not a Jehovah's Witness, but Haverstick actually defended an Amish person who was being charged with molesting children, and it has to do with penitent privilege. Haverstick, the lawyer, defended this Amish person, but the Amish person evidently was claiming the same thing the witnesses claim, is they have this penitent clergy privilege. They don't have to come forward and report it because it's confidential. Well, the Watchtower hired this Amish lawyer, Haverstick, and he comes on. Listen to what this Haverstick nutcase guy says. He says there's nothing unique or particular about this faith that makes it prone to any kind of misconduct. So he's coming on saying that it's nothing particular. All faiths, all religions, they all have this same conduct. They all, treat children. They all have pedophiles. Well, I'm not going to buy that entirely. That's a good defense to some degree, but I'm not buying it. The Jehovah's Witnesses have way more problems with pedophilia, child sex abuse than the Amish, than the Mormons, than a lot of these religions put together. So this Haverstick, it's amazing the Watchtower even hired this guy. It's but they're out to get they're out to get whoever they can get, and they figured, well, he was successful with the Amish person who was committing pedophilia. Evidently, he was successful with them, so maybe he'll be successful with us. So it just really does irritate you what goes on in this organization. I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot here to unpack, but I'm not going to go through it all. But well, what I think the thing that really bothered me the most about reading about this is in this article, it mentions the Ivy Hill congregation. Well, they're in North Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They have 140 members of the congregation in Ivy Hill, Pennsylvania. And this is what really, really bothered me. They're trying to sue the state of Pennsylvania, saying that the Jehovah's Witness elders are actually not mandated reporters. They don't have to really report any child abuse because they have confidentiality in their confessions. They're saying, like the Catholic Church. And so they're suing the Department of Human Services in Pennsylvania, this Ivy Hill congregation. So anyways, they were saying that this congregation, they have no dogs in this fight. They don't have any reported cases of abuse, but they're just challenging the state of Pennsylvania. Now, the first thing that jumped out in my mind is, oh, isn't that interesting? Watchtower's behind this. They tried to find us over 500 congregations in Pennsylvania of Jehovah's Witnesses. So they've tried to find a congregation that had no cases of abuse. They probably had to look pretty deep for this. So they came up with this Ivy Hill congregation in North Philadelphia that didn't have any cases of abuse. And so I'm sure the Watchtower was behind it and decided to sue the state of Pennsylvania. Boy, I'll tell you, these guys are very, very clever. And of course, they're trying to go with this penitent privilege. But also in the article, I found it very fascinating. Our good friend Barbara Anderson, well, they brought her up. And they say that she worked for a decade at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she spoke with the investigators at the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office, and so she's giving them information as well. So if all goes well, Barbara's coming on next week. Barbara will be coming on the sixth screen. She has her own program on here, so she'll be back on with us. So I'm just relaying some of the stuff. It's a long article, but that's what's going on behind the curtains. That's the biggest story this week. And I mean, NBC, ABC, Associated Press, you name it, they all covered it. CNN, it's all over the place. How is it that the Jehovah's Witness people, the rank and file, are not seeing this? What do they do when they see it? I mean, maybe the first time they don't believe it, but it keeps coming back and it's regurgitated and they're seeing it all the time now. So at what point do you have to wake the witnesses up? Go ahead. You're on with us. What do you have to say? 480, you're on. Did you want to say something, 480? All right. Maybe not. But I mean, isn't it? You want to say something? Go ahead. We got Thomas Hodgins, I believe. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, Rick. This is, I tell you, this is like music to my ears. I mean, after all these years, like Bill Bowen said 21 years ago on that movie, he said this is like a pedophile paradise, and that's why those people come to the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they know they can get away with it, those kind of policies like that. It's about time that here in the United States they finally get something done, at least one of the states. I just hope it can be covered all over the United States. I hope they'll do something with the shunning like they're doing in Norway. So this is great news. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this whole thing turns out. It's going to be interesting to see who this is that's going to get busted for this big shot. Should be a governing body member, maybe.
I'll tell you, isn't it exciting, Thomas? Isn't this exciting what we see happening? Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's about time.
Well, you better believe it. And, we're not gleeing. We don't like to see people hurt. But I'm going to tell you something. This organization has hurt so many people. I mean, look at the damage they have caused. Isn't it glad to see that justice is starting to come about and the Watchtower is really being exposed for who they are? Isn't that wonderful?
It is. I mean, these people have been hurt badly. I mean, a lot of them will never be able to get over this kind of stuff. They busted Sandusky, you know, for that at college, you know, where he was at. And so it's time that Watchtower pays the piper too. And I hope they really take some people to prison, some of those big shots. They're the ones that started these policies. It wasn't the elders. It was the Watchtower Society, the governing body, and some other big shots up there. They need to pay for it. Like that one guy comes on and says, "We will never change our two-witness policy." Oh, well, we'll see.
Well, Thomas, in fact, people are wondering, well, Rick, what do you mean by a big shot? Well, what do you mean a high official, the Watchtower may be arrested? Yeah, I'm saying that, that's what I'm getting. That's the direction I'm heading in. And there's a lot of things that can kind of help us understand that's going to take place. And I'll just give you some clues. The Watchtower, if you've been watching and listening to JW World News for the last year, many Watchtower articles are coming out and they're depicting, false stories coming against the Watchtower elders and people who are involved in the Watchtower. So don't be surprised if you hear these things. They're priming you. They're telling you somebody's coming down. Some big shot's going to be brought in, and it's going to rock the Watchtower organization. It's amazing. All right. So who do we got now? We got 906. You want to come in 906? Go ahead.
Go ahead, get us our caller.
Okay, go ahead. We had a lady on there. Go ahead, sister.
Hi, this is Fran and Joe.
Hi, Fran. Joe.
I was thinking about that the witnesses do not really hear about it. But now that you mentioned that it's in the newspapers and everything, maybe more will hear about it. But when we were in Carmel, California, I had the opportunity to go up to a witness cart. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to say. I was a little nervous, but I just, made small talk at first. And there were two women. The one was not raised a witness. She was Catholic, and the other one was older. And so I said at the end, I said, the only thing there's one thing that bothers me about Jehovah's Witnesses. And the younger one said, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "Well, they're hiding child sexual abuse." And she goes, "Really?" She says, "I didn't know that." And the other older woman said, "Oh, well, they do that in all religions. And, we just have to wait on Jehovah." And then, so I said, "Well, I'm from New York, and there's right now in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of court cases, and there's lots that are, being tried. And so at least I got that in. So if we can, anytime we see a, witness card, if we can go up to them and just mention that without being, mean or anything, just matter of fact. Now this one woman at least knows, but she didn't know before. So we have to plant those seeds just like they would tell us in the Watchtower. That's it, Rick. Thank you.
Well, Fran, it's so good to hear from you and Joe, and I'm glad you're back home and you guys made your whirlwind trip. And I'm glad that you had a chance to talk to that woman at the cart. And that's how misguided they are. Well, that happens in all religions. But I mean, this is really, this Watchtower is happening way more often than other religions. Thank you, Fran. Always good to hear from you. Thank you very much. And you guys will be on next week with your program, the Outside Story, next Saturday night. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I'm listening to the program tonight with interest here and so forth, and I was interested, and I kind of listened to interest with this penitent privilege. If we was to examine most of the cases, people that are committing felonies and trying to hide behind penitent privilege are losing, because that penitent privilege is not for covering up felonies. Most states have laws on the books that say if you have any kind of information regarding a felony like pedophilia or child abuse or anything like that, that you're required to report it and so forth. And most of these convictions we're getting is because the victims come forward and they come forward with some good concrete, solid evidence against these felons, and so therefore they're getting sent up for it. So these religions that are trying to hide behind penitent privilege, you're wasting your time. If you committed a felony, you're not going to get away with it.
No, you're not, Ken. No, you're not. Thank you for bringing that up. What you're looking at right now on our YouTube, Facebook screen, that is the Attorney General. That is Michelle Henry. That's the woman you see in the center at the lectern. And those are also officials from the state, and they are the ones that are investigating the witnesses. So our hat is tipped toward Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing this all up. This is really going to rock the witness nation. We thank the state of Pennsylvania. It's wonderful what they're doing. Well, we're so glad you're with us tonight. We've got about another half hour or so to go. And then we have Larry John. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with us.
Could I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
The way I see it is they're working their way right into Christendom. All the things that they used to say separated them from Christendom, they're getting involved in.
Well, you're absolutely right. The things they used to condemn, they're now part of it.
That's right.
Well, good man. I'm glad you saw that, because that's exactly what's happening. We can see it so clear as can be. Well, thank you for chiming in and letting us know that. Thank you. All right. Well, anyways, we talked about Pennsylvania, but what about Canada? We talked about Sweden. We talked about Norway. We talked about Denmark. We talked about Belgium. We talked about Russia. But what about Canada? Well, all of a sudden, W5. Do you know what W5 is? That's a national television program in Canada. It's Canada's 60 Minutes. It's big. And they have got a program coming up. I guess it's this week, or it might have even been aired this week. I'm not sure. But anyways, there's a sex abuse alleged cover-up by Jehovah's Witnesses for failing to report assaults. And we have on the program W5, Christian and Katia Gutierrez. Yes, they are from Canada. They've been on the program here before, and they have a lot to say about the Watchtower. They're featured in this W5 documentary, all about the cover-up and what happened to this young couple and how they were abused by the Watchtower and how they're being shunned today. Friends, the whole world is catching up on the Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, look at all these countries. How are the Jehovah's Witnesses going to miss this? This is what boggles my mind. I get in bed at night and I have mixed emotions. One side of me is saying, wow, all the witnesses are going to hear this. And then I say on the other side of me, it says, well, they hear their ears are stopped up. They don't want to hear it. But you know what? What happens after a while? What happens after a while? I'm just going to give you this story very quickly. My mother-in-law, she loved her first husband. His name was George. And all of the girls, the women in the neighborhood would come by and say to my mother-in-law, hey, your husband, George, he's a womanizer. He's kissing this woman at the bus stop. And, my mother-in-law didn't believe it because she loved George. And George says that he loved her. But one day she looked out the window, and sure enough, down at the bus stop, there George was, her husband, kissing another woman. She couldn't believe it. But a number of women came to her and told her that, and she just couldn't believe it. But when she saw it for herself, that was it. They got a divorce. He was a womanizer. It's the same thing that's going on with the Watchtower. People are hearing this. I don't believe it. They hear it again. I don't believe it. But boy, after a while, it's like water dripping on a rock. It's going to get through. It's going to make an indentation. And that's what's happening. The internet is doing it. It's making an indentation on these rank and file witnesses that are so loyal. They're starting to wake up and smell the coffee. Isn't that something? So, you might not believe it at first, even like most of us. When we were coming out of the Watchtower, well, we didn't want to believe what we heard. Did you want to believe that the Watchtower was involved in United Nations? Did you want to believe that they were covering up child sex abuse? Did you want to believe that they kept changing their doctrine to suit their agenda? Did you want to believe all of this? Well, let me tell you something. Yes, they're now believing it. It takes you a little while. At first you deny it, but you hear it enough. All of a sudden, there you go. You leave the Watchtower. Well, friends, I have to tell you, we've been having a really good program tonight. Lots of people listening in on our YouTube, our various platforms that we're broadcasting on. And, big stories this week. And another big story. I'm sure you caught this one. I hope you did. Have you ever heard of the Watchtower lawyer, Philip Brumley? Have you ever heard of Philip? Well, he's the big top dog, big time lawyer for the Watchtower. But you know something? In the last couple of weeks, Philip, Watchtower lawyer, he's sanctioned and has to pay a fine for lying. Yes, I'm saying lying and deceiving the court. Oh my goodness. That was a big story that I really got connected to because that is big. A Watchtower lawyer lying in court. Well, I'm going to tell you something. This Philip Brumley, it was reported that this happened, and it did happen. And you say, well, Rick, what was he lying about? Well, let's roll the clocks back to around 2020. And we had one of the girls on the program here. Her name was Heidi. And if you do remember the program in Montana, Heidi and another girl were abused. They were abused in the Watchtower and sexually. And the girl came on, talked all about it. And when Montana investigated what was going on, at first, Montana ruled in favor of the two girls that were molested and was going to award them damages, monetary damages for the problems the Watchtower caused them. But then the Watchtower appealed it, and this Philip Brumley, well, he was a Watchtower lawyer, as I say, and he was a real instigator. So I'm kind of cutting to the chase here. I can't go into all the details, but just to give you the side story here, Brumley was really questioning the fact that he was with the legal department. He was working through the Watchtower legal department of Pennsylvania. And he was claiming that Pennsylvania Watchtower had nothing to do with the New York publishing company, the New York Watchtower. And he said that there was no connection. And this was instrumental in the court deciding that, where Pennsylvania wasn't aware of the problems, where they were kind of like the legal department, that they would escape any recompense or damage. But Brumley was suggesting to the court that, Watchtower, Pennsylvania had nothing to do with all of this. But then when an investigation took place, it was a lie by Brumley. Pennsylvania Watchtower was indeed in unison with Watchtower New York, and Pennsylvania found this out, and Watchtower was trying to defuse and confuse the court. But they found out that, anyways, cut to the chase, Brumley was lying about all of this. So Pennsylvania slapped a fine on Brumley, and the fine was over $115,000 to cover the court, to cover the cost of this appeal. So Brumley got himself into deep water. Now I'm wondering what are the witnesses going to say about this, about a lawyer in their religion, a Watchtower lawyer And this is really news too. You can check it out. Just put in Philip Bromley, Watchtower lawyer. Google that. It'll pop up. So, maybe the witnesses aren't seeing this, but witnesses that do see it and see that their own lawyer was lying in court, and what are they going to say about it? Well, I'm going to show you something right here. This is the aid book. Remember this book right here? Oh, yeah, the Aid to Bible Understanding. It's not in print anymore. They replaced it with the Insight book. But if you get into this book, the Aid to Bible Understanding, there's a section in there on lying. And the Watchtower actually says in this publication that you can lie. If people are not entitled to the truth, you don't have to tell them the truth. So Bromley was taking the suggestion of the aid book's comment on lying. He was using what they call war strategy. And the witnesses use this as a defense, that they don't have to tell the truth. Well, he was caught with his pants down. Let's say that, because the court wasn't buying it. They said that he was lying, and now he's going to pay $115,000. So I'm wondering, well, Watchtower will more than likely pick up the bill. But what happens when witnesses find out about this? But just getting back to this aid book, yeah, you probably say, well, Rick, how does a religious organization who professes to be Christians, who know that you should not lie, it's one of the 10 commandments, how is it that a religious organization can actually lie and not feel guilty about it? Well, in this book, it kind of, stretches things somewhat, but it talks about Abraham and Sarah. And, when they were confronted by the enemy, so to speak, they say that Abraham said that Sarah was his sister, when indeed Sarah was his wife. But, I'm not going to get into all the details. So they use that as an example. And also Rahab, when the enemy was knocking on her door looking for the Israelites to kill them, she said they weren't there. So they use her as an example to lie. But friends, I have to tell you something. The Watchtower are bald-faced liars. This has been going on for a long time. This is nothing new. The Watchtower has been lying for many, ever since their inception. So this is nothing new. And what's really ironic here is the truth. In Bromley's case, the truth, being the Watchtower, was fined for lying. Yeah, when you stop and think about it. Yeah, I'm grinning. I'm kind of happy over all of this, what happened to Bromley, because, the Watchtower was always using or trying mental gymnastics, anything that is needed to get them out of a squeeze play. So now the Watchtower, they're appealing this again, and they're asking the court to suspend this $115,000 payment that has to be paid. But already the state of Montana said, no, that's it. You got to pay it because you lied. So there you have it. One of the top defense lawyers for the Watchtower caught in a bald-faced lie. I mean, is this really a fine witness for people to see concerning Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, thank you very much, Watchtower. You're digging your own grave. We don't even have to. As apostates, we don't even have to dig the grave for you. You're digging the grave yourself. So, when I stop and think about it, there's nothing newsworthy about the Watchtower lying. Like I say, they have been doing it for years. And I'm just, yeah, go ahead.
Did you know that if you've committed some sort of sin and lied about it long enough, and then go to the elders and tell them about it, whatever, it might be 10, 15, 20 years, nothing happens to you.
No.
They don't disfellowship people for telling lies for years and years and years to their families and friends. But if you go tell the elders right away that you did something, you get this fellowship.
Oh, you're right. It's a two-way street for these guys. You know, it's unbelievable. Well, good man. Thank you for chiming in and letting us know what you feel about it. Another story I came across that, you know, there's a lot of mayhem going on in the Watchtower. We know that. We've been talking about people getting shot in Kingdom Hall parking lots, people getting killed, being Jehovah's Witnesses out in service. Well, we have another story here that got my attention this week. Jehovah's Witness kills his girlfriend by drowning her in the bathtub. Yeah, this came across my news feed this week. So we have a Jehovah's Witness brother here, a young brother, and he murdered his girlfriend in the bathtub. He drowned her. And what is disgusting about this is he murdered her for her laptop and some cash. I mean, how heinous and evil is that? The girl, of course, was sorry for the girl, but you know, what really would create a situation for a Jehovah's Witness person to kill his girlfriend? He was mentally twisted. He must have had two personalities at least, because really, as they're investigating this guy, he seemed like a real nutty person. So the man's name was Fabricio J. And this man now is being charged with a pretty serious, I mean, a very serious crime. And anyways, he was even telling friends after he murdered his Jehovah's Witness girlfriend that same evening he slept with another woman. I mean, this guy, you know, he's claiming to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. The story is saying that he is. But man, he wasn't a very good witness, killing his girlfriend, sleeping with another woman the night this all happened. And then he committed the crime because he needed a laptop and he needed some cash as he was going to a vocational school. So I just wanted to bring that up tonight. I'm not going to dwell on the story, but the reason why I even bring it up, friends, is we're seeing some strange things come across the internet. People are really flipping out in this organization. This is not the pristine, pure, everything's wonderful in Jehovah's Witness land. Everything isn't. We're reading things here and bringing news across that is total mayhem in the Watchtower. Well, yeah, so we got a few minutes left, but I want to get one more thought in here, one more story before we go to Larry John Wayne. We're talking here about the circuit overseer's visits. And evidently what's being said during these visits is the circuit overseers, they're seeing that they have to really keep people in the organization. So many people are leaving. The circuit overseers are now being primed and trained to go into a congregation and look around and see if you can see trouble brewing. Are there PMOs in there? Are there people that are speaking abusively against Jehovah? So the circuit overseers, they're going into these organizations, into the congregations, I should say, and they're telling the witnesses to not listen to anything that's being said in a bad way. Don't listen to it because it's all false. And then they use this stupid example. Let me give you an example that they're using, which is really stupid. So the circuit overseers are saying that, you know, when you get on and you review something to buy, you know, you're going to buy something on Amazon, or you're going to look for a doctor, that we all kind of look for how many stars are next to the review, right? So if there's 5 stars, that shows that, wow, that must be a good doctor, or that must be a good product. So this nutty circuit overseer, and I guess this is probably many of them are saying the same thing. So he's using this stupid illustration. He says that, you know, if you want to check some doctor out online and you click on how many reviews he has or how many stars, and only 1 star shows up, don't be overreacting. He's saying that, maybe the doctor had one person and he gave some good advice to and they didn't follow it. So the person, nobody really, well, he only has 1 star. So, I would look at that as not being a very good doctor. But he's saying that, sometimes even just 1 star isn't that terrible, because he said sometimes the critics kind of exaggerate things and make things up. So, but he was saying that just because a product has 5 stars doesn't mean that it's a wonderful product. So it was all over the map with what he was saying, but just to cut to the chase and break it down here. So what he was saying, if you check Jehovah's Witnesses out online, so suppose there's an article or something in the paper or some review on Yelp about a congregation, and you check them out online, and the Jehovah's Witnesses only have 1 star, versus having 5 stars. Don't let that worry you. Don't let that worry you, because sometimes 1 star can mean a whole lot, because the other people are just lying about how good something would be. So how stupid is that? So, the circuit overseers, they're going to try to do everything they can to keep people in the organization, but, it's not going to work. And then also what they're telling people, the circuit overseers and elders, but there's one particular circuit overseer information coming into the 6 screens. He said that there's 3 primary sources of truth. 3 primary sources of truth. Can you guess what they are? That's right. Jehovah, Jesus, and the governing body. They always tell the truth. Well, that's probably, Jesus and Jehovah will tell the truth, but does the Jehovah's Witness organization tell the truth? The answer is no. So anyways, I'm glad you joined us tonight. There's more here I could talk about, but we got to kind of let it go now. We do have a program tomorrow here on the 6 Screen Sunday. You want to listen in? Beginning at 1 o'clock, we have a program coming on. And, well, it's 2 apologists, Christian apologists. On Sunday, we get into the theological teachings in the Watchtower. Now, tomorrow, we have 2 Christian apologists coming on, Jody Bishop and Scott Walton. They're coming on at 1 o'clock tomorrow, and they're going to be talking all about the Tower of Babel, if you would. And they're going to be bringing us up to speed on how that kind of ties in with what might even be happening today. I find this very fascinating. That's tomorrow, right here on the 6 Screen Sunday. And if you guys like what you see here tonight, like us. Go ahead and just like us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, share us. Let people know what's going on at the 6 Screens. But before we close it out, we do have Gilbert Gonzalez wants to come in. Gilbert, what do you want to say?
Hey, Vic, the 5 star, that's so funny because a year ago, I think about a year or 2 ago, I put a review on the Kingdom Halls that I attended in Yuma, Arizona, in Wilson. And the reviews were real nice, like, hi, I attended this hall, and I was an elder, and I talked about how, we destroyed families by shunning, but it got so many attacks. The Jehovah's Witnesses attacked, sending it to YouTube, and finally YouTube took down all of my posts. So even when you tell the truth, they go and they say, no, take this down. We can't let the truth be told, But so if anyone's listening, go to Google Maps in your congregation and write a review. It says, yeah, I used to be part of this congregation. They destroyed my family.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, it's sick because
Hey, Gilbert, can I add to what you're saying? This is Eric in Nashville. And I do the exact same thing, and I have to commend you for doing that. That's awesome, or for suggesting it to everybody, because I left bad reviews all over all the Kingdom Halls as much as I could. I had a rhetoric, and I just stuck to the script, except for my own personal Kingdom Hall. I came out and said, "This is Eric Kubler. I was molested. and then I was abused by this congregation, by my own family. They threw me out, left me for dead, and never will let me come back in. I was just brutally honest in my review. And I'm not saying that everyone should do that, but leave a bad review. It does help because people watch those things. If you see a 3-point something review, you're going to be like, I'm not going to eat there. You know, you got to keep it around close to 5, 4.8, 4.4. So when all you got to do is look at the 1 stars and hear people's negative experiences. And if you're a Christian and you're studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses and you see this awful review of how they're false prophets and blah, 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 and that Jesus isn't their mediator, you're not going to most likely go there. And I have to say that's a great point.
Well, hey, Rick, thanks a lot. This is why, the governing body, we found out today, they're constant liars. But I am GG for GB. I'm the governing body elect. So what happens is I'm telling you, go to Google and just tell the truth. And just go and put a review on the Kingdom Hall that
I get it.
Yep. So
do it.
Just tell the truth.
Imagine if we all did it, because I believe we have a huge community that we're not even aware of. If we all did it, I think they'd be at -1 if that was possible.
Yeah. So you see, Rick, this is why I as governing body elect, I'm giving you guys work to do.
In fact, I'm going to do it myself. I mean, we're all going to get people to do it. Just good you didn't do it because, what they're saying here, the circuit overseer is saying, well, if there's only 1 star, don't fret, because the other people aren't telling the truth, Chase. All right.
And let's face it, a lot of people who leave the organization that are maybe homies physically out mentally, and they don't want to expose themselves to tell the story.
No.
But why not at this point? Once you learn the truth of it, expose it. Tell the truth of what happened of the truth.
You got it. Well, very good, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Gilbert. We got to move on. We got another program coming up here now, so we got to move on to Larry John Wayne. I want to thank everyone for coming on to the program tonight. Boy, we had a really good night. We had 4 hours here of just going straight forward, exposing the Watchtower. I want to thank everyone that called in, and now you're right up to date on what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. So stay with us. We have Larry John Wayne. Do you want to be a superhuman being? Well, Larry John Wayne's coming up. He's out of Southern California. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and he wants to share these thoughts with you. So, friends, I just want to leave you with this. The last one, leaving the Watchtower. Please turn off the new light. Stay with us. We'll be back on YouTube in 2 minutes. Thank you for listening in tonight. All right.